I never imagined that the two people I loved most would betray me. My wife, who I thought was my partner for life, had been seeing another man behind my back for months. But what cut even deeper was when my own daughter chose her mother's side, abandoning me for the luxurious life they offered. They both turned their backs on me, leaving me alone and shattered. But I didn't stay down for long. I uncovered every deceit, and I made sure they both felt the weight of their betrayal. This is the story of how I lost everything, only to rise stronger. My daughter, Louise, parked her shiny new car in the lot. She walked into the restaurant and sat down across from me. I had to admit, she looked really nice in her new clothes. She glanced around, saw me, and came to my table. She kissed me on the cheek and took a seat. "Hi, Dad," she said, nervously playing with her new iPhone. Right away, I could tell something was not right. The waitress took our orders. I sat quietly, waiting to hear what was bothering her. Things had been tense between us since my divorce. She began to cut her visits short and didn't want to stay overnight. Most of the time, she seemed more focused on her phone than me. When the waitress brought our food, I took a sip of my tea, still quiet. Elise kept stirring her coffee as she gathered her thoughts, waiting for the right moment to speak. "Dad, this is hard for me to say, but I don't want to visit you anymore. Not every other weekend like I used to. I'm 16 now, and I can decide if I want to see you or not, and I've chosen not to." My heart felt like it was breaking. A year ago, a rich doctor named Richard Kavanaugh had chased after Louise, my ex-wife, with gifts and lunches until she fell for him and left me. They had been together since high school until he went to college. Then their relationship ended. My parents couldn't afford to pay for my school, so I went to community college and worked part-time. Louise and I met at a party, and we were drawn to each other right away. If I had known about her past with Richard, I might have seen that I was just a temporary choice for her. But after we dated for months, I truly believed that Louise loved me. Her family wasn't wealthy either. Still, Louise was a beautiful girl who could make things happen just with her smile. We went out together for a few months, even though her family did not approve of me at all. Her mother often said that someone as beautiful as her could find someone better. One day during the last semester, Louise surprised me with big news. She was going to have a baby. I was too shocked to feel excited, but I knew I had to step up. We both decided to leave college during the final months of her pregnancy. I chose to switch to a welding training program. After 8 months, I earned my welding diploma and found a job as a welder. It paid enough to help support my family. The pay wasn't the highest, but the job came with good health benefits. I never returned to college because I realized it would be hard to balance my classes, work, and family responsibilities. There just wasn't enough money or time to get everything done. 3 years later, my wife finished school and became a nurse. She started working part-time when our daughter Elise was in junior high and then went full-time when she began high school. Money was tight, and I worked long hours to support us. I was happy, I loved my wife, and I adored my daughter. We didn't have a lot of extra things, but we were managing. I had no idea that things were changing between us. I thought life was good. We had each other, and I believed we were a happy family. Then I found out that Louise's old high school boyfriend was back in town. He was a surgeon and had begun working at the same hospital as Louise. She never mentioned him to me. My wife also didn't tell me about the long lunches they had together. She never told me about her worries when she started to have feelings for him again. I had no idea that my wife was seeing Dr. Dick 3 or 4 times a week. I was just a trusting fool, thinking my wife would never betray me. One evening, I came home from work and saw my wife waiting for me, looking stunning in a beautiful dress and wearing a lovely set of diamond jewelry. "Louise, are we going somewhere? Where did you get that dress and those jewels?" I asked. She looked right at me and said, "Paul, I'm leaving you. You don't make enough money and you probably never will. We're not getting anywhere. I'm tired of not enjoying life. I want to go to nice places, have dinner at fancy restaurants, and travel to the amazing places we always dreamed of visiting. This is not the life I want. I was tired of driving my old car and not having nice jewelry or pretty dresses. I felt I deserved better. I wanted to break free. I was shocked." "What?" Not the best response, but I was still trying to understand what I had just heard. "I'm getting a divorce." I left the papers on the kitchen counter. I'm not asking for anything except child support. I took only 30% of our savings. I canceled our credit cards. You can keep the house. I never liked it anyway. I don't want any extra money from you, and I'm not going after your retirement fund. None of that is worth arguing about. If you want, you can hire a lawyer, but you'll see it's a fair deal. I'm sorry we couldn't make our relationship work. Her tone was different from her words. She sounded cold and distant, like she didn't really mean it. Sorry? It seemed like she was almost smiling. Where is Elise? I asked, looking around. She's staying with my parents. I want full custody, but I'll let you see her often. I still couldn't believe this was really happening. Louise never gave me any signs that our marriage was in trouble. I felt like my heart was being torn apart. Just this morning I left for work with a wife and a daughter. Now it seemed I had neither. Does Elise know about this? I asked. Yes, she does. She said she wants to stay with me. If you have more questions, you can talk to my lawyer. I left his card with the divorce papers. Goodbye, Paul. I wish you well. Get lost, I snapped back. She walked out of the house and shut the door behind her. I sat there, frozen. It felt like a train had run over me. What just happened? I wondered. I called my daughter to see if she knew about her mother's plans to leave me. Yes, Dad, I know. Mom and I talked about her feelings for weeks, she replied. You knew all this and didn't tell me? I asked, shocked. I'm sorry, Dad. Mom asked me to keep it quiet. Elise sounded sad. I felt her quietness was a new kind of hurt. I'm going to find a lawyer and fight for shared custody, Eli. Dad, next year I'll be 16 and I can choose which parent I want to live with. You'll just be wasting your time. My heart felt like it stopped. Dad? Dad? Are you still there? Yes, Eli, I'm still here. I just can't believe what I'm hearing. Are you saying you don't want to live with me? It doesn't mean I don't love you. I'll see you every other weekend. Wow. I felt like my world was falling apart and my daughter was telling me she was fine seeing me just every other weekend. I hung up without saying another word. In the days that followed, I tried to pick up the pieces of my life. I took steps to protect myself even when I didn't really need to. I read the divorce papers and saw that Louise wasn't asking for much, just child support. A quick check online showed me that she hadn't taken anything from our small savings except what she had told me about. I moved the rest of the money to a new bank account just for me and asked for a new credit card, too. At night, I cried myself to sleep. All my hopes and dreams felt broken. Nothing about this situation made sense unless Louise had someone else helping her and my daughter. I started calling some of Louise's co-workers, particularly those she didn't get along with. Bit by bit, I found out the truth about her and her past love, Richard Dick Kavanaugh. It wasn't a nice story. Louise had been unfaithful to me for months. Many small signs I had overlooked started to make sense. I felt foolish. I tried to reach out to my soon-to-be ex-wife, but she said that I should only speak to her lawyer and then hung up on me. Elise chatted with me for a bit, but she always found a reason to end the call. I told my mom and sister about what had happened. My dad had passed away from cancer years ago, and my mom was living with my sister now. They were just as shocked by the news as I was. They offered me help and even money for a lawyer, but I turned it down. I didn't call her parents. They never liked me anyway, and I was pretty sure they were glad about what happened. I decided to sell the house. It was too big and expensive for me alone. I canceled all the extra services like the landline and cable to save money. I hired a low-cost lawyer to look over the divorce papers, and he said it was a fair deal. He also told me not to fight for my daughter's living situation. If your daughter doesn't want to be with you, it will only waste time and money. I hope you can work things out with her. It's a tough situation, and kids often need to learn things on their own. Did I want to get back at that guy? Of course I did. I followed him in my truck for days, but I never got the chance to confront him without risking trouble with the law. He lived in a secure community with guards. The hospital parking lot had security staff and cameras. My online search didn't show anything negative about him. Dr. Dick was divorced and had no children. I tracked down his ex-wife and called her. She told me she caught him being unfaithful and ended their relationship. Since they didn't have a prenuptial agreement, she did well in the divorce. I thought about telling the person my soon-to-be ex-wife was with. But since they were both unfaithful, I doubted it would matter. You know the saying, birds of a feather. While I was looking around, I found pictures of Dr. Dick, my ex-wife, and my daughter. They seemed happy together, almost like a real family. It hurt so much that I decided to close all my social media accounts. I spoke with a lawyer again about suing the hospital, but he explained that the law mainly protects employees. A person who doesn't work there cannot make a legal claim against the employer in this kind of situation. In some states, you can take legal action against your wife's lover, but not in Ohio. After she left, my life outside of work was empty. I didn't go on dates. I didn't seek out any kind of relationship. The only times I looked forward to were when my daughter came to visit. The divorce papers from Louise allowed me to see her every other weekend. The first visit was awkward. I felt angry at her mother and the man she was with. All Mom wanted was to find happiness in a way that you couldn't provide, Dad. You can't get mad at her for wanting that. She should have talked to me and said she wanted to leave our marriage. It would have hurt, but I would have understood. Then she could have moved on freely. But your mother didn't do that, did she? She betrayed me, lied to me, and started a new relationship while we were still married. I taught you to call things by their name, Eli, and this is called cheating. My daughter looked at me, torn inside. I could tell she understood my point. I raised her, and we often talked about family values, being honest, and doing what is right. But I knew that what we did during our visits could never match the thrill she felt with Dr. Dick and the other woman. She was caught up in the excitement of her new life, and it was clear she didn't want to give up the nice things she had just to be with a man who could barely afford a bicycle for her. I also noticed how my ex-wife was influencing her thoughts. Elise couldn't stop talking about her new home, her new room, and all the things Dr. Dick was giving her. After so many years of living together, I had grown used to having Elise around. Now, seeing her every other weekend felt like a wound that couldn't heal. It was like having a Band-Aid pulled off again and again. The hurt never really went away. Our time together didn't feel like it used to. Elise seemed distant, bored, and not really interested in what I suggested. I could tell my daughter was caught up in her new life. Our old home just didn't match her new world, and I could only afford a movie or a dinner out. Elise, I know I can't give you all the things that your mother's new friend can give you, but I want us to enjoy our time together. Just tell me what you'd like to do. We tried going to the movies and cooking meals together. Sometimes we had fun and felt close, but most of the time Elise seemed bored, distracted by her phone. It was hard to watch my dear daughter drift away a little more with each visit, even though I was trying my best. 2 weeks after the divorce was final, the doctor and his new partner got married. My daughter was part of the wedding. I wasn't invited. One day I bought 2 tickets for a boy band concert that she really liked. The tickets weren't the best ones, but I spent a lot of money on them. I texted her a picture of the tickets, hoping to cheer her up for our next visit. She replied, excited to go to the concert. But just 2 days before the show, she sent me a message saying that Dr. Dick had better tickets, and she was going with him instead. I didn't want to upset my daughter, but I felt hurt and disappointed, so I called her to express how I felt. I thought I raised you better than this. I know I can't compete with a surgeon, but this wasn't just about the concert or sitting in good seats. It was about us having fun together as father and daughter. Do you understand the effort I made to get those tickets you decided to turn down? I know I care for you, but I feel like I'm the only one trying to keep us together. You're pulling away from me, and I don't know how to fix this. This isn't working for me at all. I thought you'd be glad to hear I'm happy. Richard cares about me as much as you do. I bit my lip to stop myself from shouting. When I spoke, my voice was low and heavy. No one cares about you the way I do. Yes, Dad, she replied quietly. He really does. He's not a bad person. I'm not going to compete with your mother's husband for your love, I said with disappointment. It's not a contest. I have enough love for both of you, but you're making me feel I have to choose. I won't do that. If you really have enough love for both of us, then why do you act bored when we're together? And why do you hurry back to him? Why do you talk about him all the time? I have to pull words out of you when we're together. Is money all that matters to you? I'm beginning to think I didn't raise you well. Dad, you're overreacting. I'm sorry about the concert. I got carried away. I was just excited because we were going to meet the band. Richard knows some people. Stop it, Eli. I don't want to hear it. Just enjoy the show. I hung up and tried hard not to throw my phone against the wall. My daughter's voice snapped me back to reality. Dad, did you hear what I said? Yeah, I heard you. You don't want to see me anymore. What do you want me to say? Do you want me to beg? Would that change anything? Elise shook her head. I didn't think so. I still have some pride and self-respect. Does it hurt to hear you say you don't want to be part of my life anymore? Yes, it does. It hurts a lot, but you're a grown-up now. You can make your own choices and deal with what comes with them. Dad, you're being overdramatic. It's not that I don't want to see you anymore. I just need some time for myself. I raised my hand to stop her. Your mom told me the same thing when she was unfaithful, and it still hurt. Her time for herself didn't include me. It included the man she cheated with. Dad, Richard is not a bad guy. If you give him a chance and get to know him, I'm sure you two could be friends. He might even help you with your job. I scoffed. That's not going to happen. Please don't compare me to him. Your new hero has hurt people before. He cheated on his first wife, and when he met your mom, he used his money to win her over, even though she was married. He was with your mom for months while she lied to me. In my book, it shows your doctor as a really bad person and your mother as someone who went along with it. She looked like she wanted to say something, but I spoke first. This meeting isn't about them. It's about you and me. Let me ask you, was I such a bad dad? I worked long hours to take care of you and your mom, and I was always there for you when you needed me. I drove you to school every day in my truck. I never missed any of your school events. You always had gifts on Christmas and your birthday. I took care of you when you were sick. We would go bike riding at the park on Saturdays, or we would visit the zoo. Remember how we made couch forts together on rainy days? Maybe I wasn't perfect, but I tried my best to be a good dad. You and your mom never went without the things you needed. For a moment, my daughter looked softer, and a small smile appeared on her face. You are a great dad. My choice has nothing to do with you. I still care for you, Dad. This is about me. You need to know that I'm going to a new school now. I have a new group of friends and a busy life. On weekends, Mom, Richard, and I go to the club. I play tennis, swim at the pool, and spend time with my friends. Sometimes we go out on his sailboat. Honestly, being with you doesn't feel as fun as being with them. I hope you don't take it the wrong way. I listened to her in silence. I felt a tight knot in my throat. I fought to hold back my tears. When I finally got control of my feelings enough to speak, my voice came out shaky. I'm sorry I couldn't give you everything you wanted. I tried hard to provide for you and your mom the best I could. I thought those things didn't matter much as long as we loved each other. I see now I may have been wrong. I'm struggling, I'm not very interesting, and being with me isn't as thrilling as being with your mom, her wealthy boyfriend, and your new fancy friends, so you're pushing me away like your mother did. She took my hand and held it tightly. Please, Dad. I love you. Actions speak louder than words, kiddo. That's a lesson I've tried to teach you. Elise was crying now. I knew I was making this hard for her, but I was in pain inside. Dad, please understand that I have to think about my future. A future you can't provide for me, but Richard can. He is going to pay for my college at a big university. You couldn't have given me anything like that. I could see the influence of someone else's words behind my daughter's reasoning. I was pretty sure someone had told her what to say to me. What you're saying is that Richard bought your love like he did with your mother's. No, Dad, please. Don't think that. I am and always will be your daughter. I could see how much my mom was hurting because of this choice, so I decided to step back. She had made up her mind, and there wasn't anything I could say or do to change it. I'm not trying to upset you, Eli. I just want you to understand my feelings. If you don't want to see me on weekends anymore, that's okay. I have to accept your choice even though it makes me sad. My mom didn't reply. She just looked at me with tears in her eyes. Just let your dad teach you one last lesson, and then I'll step out of your life. I want you to enjoy your time with your new family and friends. Elise looked at me. One day you will meet someone special who will make you feel very happy. You'll fall in love, and you'll look forward to being together all the time. My daughter nodded. When that special moment comes, take a good look at the ring on your finger. Think about what it means to accept his ring. Accepting an engagement ring means that your heart and your life now belong to your partner. It shows that you are ready to build a life together, just the two of you. From that time on, you are a team. You rely on each other completely. I paused so my words could be understood. But if you think you're only accepting the ring until someone better comes along, that's a different story. If you want to be with him only until a richer man shows up, then he has the right to know the truth. You should tell him, I will be with you and be loyal only as long as you can take care of me. Don't make promises like, I'll be true to you, or through good times and bad if you don't really mean it. The choices you make show your values and what you think is right. When you say you will do something and then don't follow through, you teach others and yourself that you cannot be trusted, and love cannot live without trust. I pray you will remember my words and choose wisely on your engagement day. My daughter listened closely, tears streaming down her face. Can I have one last hug? Elise nodded, still crying. My own eyes were wet, tears finally falling down my cheeks. I'll see you on Christmas, Dad, she said between sobs. I nodded. When the hug ended, I turned and walked away without looking back. I hoped to hear Elise call me, saying she wanted me in her life, but it didn't happen. I got into my truck and cried a lot. It was the kind of crying that leaves you feeling frozen and helpless. The moon lit up the sky as I finally started the engine and drove home. In the month before Christmas, I felt every kind of emotion: pain, sadness, anger, loss. I sent a message to my daughter and she replied, but I could tell she wasn't really feeling it. All through December, I felt a heavy weight in my stomach. Every time I thought about Christmas without my daughter, I could hardly swallow. I didn't get a Christmas tree because I knew seeing it would just remind me of the joy that was missing. On Christmas Eve, I hoped for a call or a text from my daughter, but nothing came. I tried calling her, but it went straight to voicemail. I even went to her house, but the guard at the gate told me they had gone away. I ended up at a pub, drinking beer like I was young again. After a while, I stumbled back home, preparing to spend Christmas Day all by myself for the first time ever. Being alone on Christmas made me face the truth. I might have lost my daughter for good. The only reason I was still in town was Elise, and now it felt like she had left me too. Maybe one day she would change her mind, or maybe she would really embrace her new life and forget all about me. One thing was clear: I couldn't keep waiting for her to call every day. I felt completely lost. I felt like my worth was gone. It was as though I had been thrown out with the trash. After our messy Christmas, I stopped trying to call or text my daughter. If she wanted to talk, she had my number. I needed a change of scenery, and I needed it fast. Things had changed, and I didn't want to stay in town any longer. Then, as if it were a sign from above, I received a call from the realtor. The house had finally been sold. Since the house was only in my name, and Ohio does not share property in a divorce, I didn't need to get her signature to sell it. She didn't ask for anything in the divorce, except for the 30% she took from our savings, so I didn't think it was necessary to tell her. As soon as I got the money from the sale, I quit my job and cashed in my 401k. After paying the fine and taxes, I was left with a good amount of money. I sat down and figured out how much I could save for my daughter's college. I didn't mind that Dr. Dick was covering some of it. She's still my daughter. I wrote a check and hired a lawyer to give it to her, but only after she read the letter I included. Dear Elise, there is a lot I want to say, and I have mixed feelings about it. I never realized how much good money meant to you. I also didn't know your mother cared about it so much. I clearly misunderstood you both. I always taught you that true value comes from the heart, not the bank. Live your life carefully, as life is about learning to put your values into action. Thank you for telling me directly when you decided your life was better without me. It took courage to look me in the eye while you were hurting me. I appreciate your decision. I want you to know that I love you very much. That's why your choice felt like a deep hurt to me. You don't realize how much pain you caused. Spending Christmas alone without even a message from you was really hard. Maybe in the future we can fix our relationship, but right now I need to leave this place and focus on getting my life back on track. I feel like you're no longer on my side. I'm glad you found a new and exciting life filled with chances. It makes me sad that I'm not a part of it anymore. Money can buy many things, but I never thought your love was one of them. I wish you the best in life. Dad, I sold almost everything I owned except my tools and bought a used camper. I paid for it in cash. Before I left town, I got back at Dr. Dick and the other person involved. I sat down at my computer and made a flyer. It looked like one of those old wanted posters. Dr. Dick Cavanaugh, surgeon at Ohio Health Mansfield Hospital. He was unfaithful to his first wife, and she left him. He pursued my wife and wooed her with gifts and nice things. They were unfaithful to me for months before she asked for a divorce. He also used his money to take my daughter away from me. You can congratulate him on his newly formed family at this number. I put the jerk's phone number in big letters. You can also reach the good doctor at the hospital. The receptionists are ready to take your call. Just be careful. If he gets interested in your family, he might try to take them from you too. On the lower part of the poster, I added a picture of a woman I knew my wife disliked and wrote, "Wife for sale, Louise Olson, also known as Louise Cavanaugh." She was unfaithful to me and was with Dr. Dick Cavanaugh for months. If you earn more than a surgeon, you might be able to win her over. Make sure to have a good talk before deciding. She came with a daughter who needed a lot of attention. You can congratulate Louise for making a better choice with her new partner. I wrote down the new man's phone number in big black letters. Louise was so eager to move on that she only took the gifts from her new partner. One thing she left behind was the family computer. It was a nice surprise to find that I could still get into my ex-wife's and daughter's email accounts. I sent a digital version of a poster to all their contacts and everyone else I could think of. I also printed 5,000 copies of the poster, and for a little extra money, they put them in Sunday's edition of the Columbus Dispatch. I also accessed the email conversations between Louise and her new partner. I saved them on a flash drive. They might come in handy if they decided to take legal action against me. To win a civil lawsuit for defamation, you have to show the court that the statements made about them were untrue. Any good lawyer would tell them that a trial would only draw more attention to them and what they did. When I finished my work, the sun was coming up. I was tired, but happy. On my way out, I bought a new phone with a different number. I got into my camper and drove away from my old life. The camper became my home for the next few weeks. At first, the drive was quiet. I was lost in my thoughts and didn't notice much around me. There were many things I had missed while I worked hard to take care of my family. Now that I was free, I wanted to check off everything on my wish list. I had never gone more than 100 miles from my hometown since I got married. My last years were all about work and being a husband and father. That was over now. I had planned to drive from Ohio to Wyoming and look for a steady job there, but when I arrived, I decided to keep going west. I drove along quiet back roads, exploring the small towns of America. Whenever I found a chance to do some welding for extra cash, I would stay for a few days. I never stayed in one place for more than a few weeks unless I found a pretty view or a friendly community. Over the next few months, I traveled through America, moving with the rhythm of life. I didn't pretend that everything was okay. The sadness and anger were still with me. Some days I felt down and cried myself to sleep. The future I had dreamed of was broken. The people I had cared for and loved hurt me deeply and then left. Even with this big loss, and even though my journey had changed, I still believed I could have a bright future. You know the saying, the best revenge is living a good life. Of course, I wanted to prove to my ex-wife and my daughter that I could succeed, despite what they had done to me. This might be part of it, but I thought the most important thing was showing myself that I could move on and not keep worrying about the past. I had been traveling for 3 months when I decided to call my mom. She and my sister were the only ones who had my new number. I asked them not to share it with anyone. Mom told me she had been getting a lot of angry calls and threats from a woman about a wanted poster. The woman used words like slander and false statements. But no one had come looking for me at her house. My daughter had also tried to reach me. I guess she was upset with me too. "How are you doing, Paul?" my mom asked. "Some days are better than others. But I'm okay, Mom. I know I did the right thing by leaving town. I feel much better being on the road. I still think of myself as a failure, and I keep asking myself what I could have done differently. Please don't be so hard on yourself, son. Why are you looking at the world through your ex-wife's and Dr. Douchebag's ideas? You wanted a caring wife, and she wanted to move on to something better. You were never a good match. She might have been a step towards someone who truly appreciates you. In my eyes, you're a much better person than they are. I think you might be a bit too kind about me, but thanks, Mom. I really mean it, Paul. You are a wonderful father and a great husband. You worked hard to give your family the best life you could. You put off school for them. You were always there for your daughter. You also stayed true to your marriage. This shows you are a good person. Hold your head up high. You did nothing wrong. What about them? They only cared about things that don't matter. Louise was really not a nice person who hurt the one who loved her the most. Your ex-wife and that doctor are not, and will never be, better than you. It doesn't matter how great they seem on Facebook or how much they earn. Your flyer made them look at themselves honestly, and they didn't like what they saw. Once the fun and excitement go away, they might cheat on each other too. I bet Elise is starting to wonder if she made the right choice with them. Elise is smart. You raised her well. She will figure it out eventually. It's too bad I won't be around to see it. Don't say that, Paul. I don't think so. The last time we talked, Eli was really excited about the new life Dr. Dick was giving her. Well, son, not everything that looks shiny is valuable. I heard their membership at the club is being looked at again. Their group of friends isn't as large as it used to be. A lot of people don't like those who cheat. Even people at the hospital are upset with them. That's not my concern anymore, Mom. I love you. Tell Sis I said hi. I love you too, Paul. Thanks for calling. I called my daughter from a public phone. As soon as she heard my voice, she started to yell at me. I hoped I was wrong about why she wanted to talk. I'm so mad at you, Dad. That awful poster ruined everything. Why couldn't you just leave us alone? I didn't ruin your life. Your mom's choices did. Goodbye, Elise. Please don't ask me to call again. I hung up the phone. I was driving through a nice city in the northwest called Middletown. I saw a shopping place with a food court and a spot for cars, trucks, and vans. After months on the road, my camper needed a good wash. I watched as it went through a high-tech cleaning line. While it was being cleaned, I walked over to a nearby school playground to watch the kids play. The school grounds looked open to everyone in the community. I saw some people walking their dogs in the park. A little girl ran by me. She was small and thin, with scraped knees. Her clothes looked old and worn. A group of loud girls was chasing her. "Hey, Sabrina, where's your dad?" a big blonde girl shouted. The other kids on the playground laughed. I remembered being in her place when I was young. I never had new shoes, and my clothes were always clean but not brand new. I recognized the look in the girl's dark eyes. She had a mix of shame and fear, but also some strength. This quiet girl could stand up for herself if pushed. "I have a dad," she said softly. "Everyone has one." "Is his name on your birth certificate?" the blonde teased. Sabrina flinched and tried to walk away, but the bully blocked her path. "Only losers don't have dads." The big blonde smirked and grabbed Sabrina's arm, pulling her back. "Do you even have a birth certificate? I hear you and your mom eat from the trash. They say your dad disliked you both so much that he left you in an alley and ran away." It's surprising how mean some kids can be. This made me remember some tough times from my own childhood. Growing up with little money put me in a similar situation. Sabrina pressed her lips together and clenched her fists. I stood up and walked over to the group, ready to step in if things got too rough. The girls kept teasing her, calling her names, while Sabrina tried hard to ignore them. Then the blonde girl threw out one last insult. "Everyone says your mom is bad. I bet right now she's with someone to get money for your lunch." The group burst into laughter. "What did you say?" The group fell silent. The blonde bully leaned in close to Sabrina, her face twisted in a cruel smile. "I said your mom is bad." The only job she could find was letting other guys be with her in ways that weren't right. Sabrina punched the blonde girl in the stomach as hard as she could. While the blonde groaned on the ground, Sabrina said softly, "Don't ever talk about my mom again." The blonde jumped up and hit Sabrina in the face, making her nose bleed. I thought it was time to take action instead of just watching. "Stop it!" I yelled. I looked at the group of mean girls and they backed away. Standing at 6'2", I must have seemed really big to them. The girls looked at me in fear and then ran off, taking the heavy blonde with them as she held her stomach and yelled. When I got near Sabrina, she looked at me with a sad expression. I wanted to help her feel better. I understand how it feels to be picked on. I was picked on when I was your age too, I admitted. I stayed a bit away from her to show that I meant no harm. I would be scared if I were you. "Here, take this." I handed her a tissue to wipe her nose. Sabrina sat down on a bench and gently used the tissue. "Someone will come to take me to the principal's office. They always do," she said. "I want to go with you and explain what happened," I said, sitting beside her but still leaving some space. She didn't say anything, but I could see her looking at me in a new way. Her eyes scanned my gray eyes and then moved down to my dusty sneakers. Just as Sabrina said, someone arrived to find her. She said she was the principal's secretary and asked me who I was. I told her I was just passing by and saw everything that happened. She showed us through some hallways and stopped at a closed door that said, "Principal." She knocked. "Come in," a woman's voice called from inside. "There was a fight on the playground," the secretary said. The principal of Middletown Elementary looked a bit scary, like a mix of a strict teacher and a villain from a story. "What happened?" she asked. "We have one child in the nurse's office with a big stomachache," the secretary said, pointing at me. "This man says he saw what happened." "Call the parents," the principal commanded. "Already done," the secretary replied. Sabrina looked worried. "Can you tell me what happened out there, mister?" the principal asked. She looked at my wrinkled shirt and old jeans, which I hadn't had time to change. "Paul Olson," I said, reaching out my hand. She shook it firmly. Her eyes stayed on mine. She asked me to sit down, and I shared everything that had happened at the playground, including some thoughts about bullies. Just then, a woman walked into the principal's office. She looked to be in her 30s and wore a waitress uniform. "What happened?" she asked, and I guessed she was Sabrina's mom. "I messed up," Sabrina replied. "What on earth?" her mom said, her lips pressing together tightly. Sabrina held out her hand. Without hesitation, her mom reached into her uniform pocket and took out a quarter. Seeing the puzzled looks on our faces, the mother shrugged a little. "I'm not supposed to use bad words." The principal nodded. "Sabrina, please go with Mrs. Taylor while I speak with your mom." Sabrina got up and left the office. Nobody told me to leave, so I stayed and tried to understand what was happening. "His friend said some girls were bothering Sabrina," someone mentioned. "Bothering her about what?" the mother asked, but it seemed she already had a good idea. "They called her dumb, said she didn't have a dad, made fun of her being poor," I said. The mother swore under her breath. "She was very hurt," the principal said. "Why shouldn't she be?" the mother retorted angrily. "Sabrina hit Nellie Welch really hard, and now that girl is in the nurse's office. Fighting isn't allowed at school," the principal replied firmly. Looking at my daughter, she wasn't the only one throwing punches. "And if I remember right, Nellie is a big girl who doesn't seem fit to be out with others," the mother added. I struggled not to laugh. "Regardless, both girls are suspended," the principal said. "That's fine by me." Sabrina's mother stood up. "When can she return to school?" "In 2 days," the principal said, tilting her head. "Will she be upset?" "Not at all. She'll be happy." I've never understood why some people see sending kids home as a punishment. The only ones who care about missing class are the ones who usually don't get sent home at all. My real issue is who is going to take care of her while I'm at work. The principal frowned, looking unhappy. She got up and walked with us to the door. Sabrina was waiting for her mom outside. "You're going to be home for 2 days," her mom told her. Then she turned to me and said, "I don't think we've met properly, mister." "Paul," I replied, extending my hand to shake hers. She shook my hand. "I'm Mary, Sabrina's mom, as you can guess. Thank you for standing up for my daughter. She really needs someone to support her. I wish I could be there for her like she needs." "Am I in trouble?" Sabrina asked when we stepped outside. "Who started it?" I replied. "Not me," she insisted. Sabrina's mother looked at me, wanting some kind of comfort. I nodded to show support. "I tried to walk away," Sabrina continued. I nodded again. "That's when I got this." She lifted her right arm, showing new bruises that were shaped like fingers. Her mother rubbed her forehead in worry. "Maybe you should talk to them?" she suggested. Sabrina pointed to her scraped knees and then to her bruised nose. "The girl gave you a sore nose and then you hit her back?" her mother asked. Sabrina squirmed and glanced at me. I gave her a look that I hoped said, "You have to handle this." "Not exactly," she finally admitted, giving her mother a short but honest summary of what had happened. Was she saying mean things to you? Her mother pressed. Some, Sabrina replied. Remember, sticks and stones, Sabrina, her mother reminded her. I understood too well that words could hurt just as much. What else happened? Her mother asked. She said you, Sabrina started to say. Her mother waited patiently. I what? She prompted. Forget it, Sabrina said quickly. Sabrina, her mother urged. She said you were not a good person, Sabrina blurted out. I watched her mother's face and knew that words could still be painful. Not like I haven't heard that before, her mother replied. You're not in trouble, but I am. Social services is already looking for us. I can't let them take you away because I left you alone. You know I can't afford a babysitter. How can I work if you're not in school? I cleared my throat to get their attention and said, maybe I can help with that. Mary looked confused at first. Then she turned to Sabrina, who nodded and smiled a little. I just moved to town and I need someone to show me around. I heard there's a lake close by. What I mean is, I would be happy to watch your daughter if you could take me on a tour. I know it's hard to trust someone new, so I can give you my mom's number for a reference. She's staying with my sister. I could see Mary deep in thought, so I called my mom. I talked to her for a moment to explain what was going on, then handed the phone to Mary. She stepped away to talk privately, and after a few minutes, she came back. Your mom seems really nice. She talks really well about you. She told me you would take good care of Sabrina. She's my mom. She might see me in a good light. She mentioned something about you having a daughter, Paul. I hope I'm not being too nosy, but what happened with you two? I haven't had lunch yet. If you don't mind, I'd like to invite both of you to join me so I can share my story. We went to McDonald's, and while Sabrina played in the playground, I gave Mary a quick summary of what had happened. It was the first time I shared my whole story, and I was surprised that I didn't feel as emotional as I expected. Mary listened well, and I felt a sense of relief when I finished. I can understand why you left. She really hurt you, she said. Which one? My ex-wife or my daughter? I asked. Well, your ex-wife cheating and leaving must have been hard, but I was talking about your daughter, Elise. Elise chose to believe that Louise's new boyfriend could give her a better life than I could. What could I do? Beg her to care for me? Since then, we haven't had a real relationship. It was her choice, not mine. She took my hand gently. I'm really sorry to hear that. I would be glad to help with Sabrina if that would make things easier for you. She's a truly amazing girl. I can't pay you, Paul, she replied. I laughed a little. Thanks for the offer, Mary, but I don't really need the extra money. I understand if you feel unsure about leaving your daughter with someone you don't know. I believe I can trust you. Your mother has spoken highly of you. She smiled at me, and I smiled back. I'm running out of choices, Paul. I don't want my daughter to be taken away by the state. Even when a child is not well cared for because of money issues, the state decides what neglect means. Their rules usually focus on things like not having a good home, proper clothes, or medical care, which mostly affect people who are struggling financially. If I take my daughter to the park, her dress looks old and dirty compared to the other kids in their bright, colorful clothes that seem like they came from a cartoon. The wrong social worker might say her clothes were terrible or dirty, even if they were just messy. This could lead to a court case to take her child away. I nodded and held her hand tightly. My worry isn't just about feeling ashamed. I'm also really scared that people will think I'm a bad mom because of the clothes my daughter wears. As you saw, Sabrina has some trouble at school too. Plus, my house needs many repairs. I feel so stressed, Paul. I looked at her and said, Things will improve, I promise, Mary. I wrote my number on a paper napkin and gave it to her. I said, If you ever need someone to watch Sabrina, just call me. I'm going to be around for a few days. Later that night, she called and asked me to come to her house early in the morning. Mary and Sabrina's house was old and needed a lot of fixing. The yard was in bad shape, too. The yard was messy with crabgrass. The bushes were wild and needed cutting back. Both inside and outside, the house needed paint and some fixing up. It was easy to see why social services were worried about Mary. A quick look around showed that the electric system was not enough, and the kitchen was in bad shape. The countertops were old linoleum, the cabinets were cheap, the stove looked really old. There was a small dishwasher, and the refrigerator didn't have an ice maker. We decided to start with the yard. Sabrina and I spent a lot of time outside, planting new flowers, trimming the bushes, mowing the grass, and pulling out weeds. We got the garden looking nice enough to put in some flowers and some yard games I had bought for her. Sabrina started to dance in the grass, and I felt so happy. Over the next 2 days, we became very close. I helped Sabrina with her homework, just like I had helped Elise. She was very bright. She just needed some help and a stable environment, things she wasn't getting right now. Her grades started to get better, and they kept improving over time. My job as a volunteer babysitter, handyman, and tutor became a regular thing. I was having dinner with Mary and her daughter every day. "It's the least I can do to thank you for everything you're doing for my daughter," Mary said. Of course, I was still living in my camper. I also found some part-time jobs welding and a steady job with a local contractor. My new boss and his wife owned the only bed and breakfast in town. His name was Percy, and he was a nice guy. "If you're as good as you claim, you'll have plenty of work with me," Percy promised. On weekends, Mary and Sabrina took me out to see the area. We had picnics by the lake, rode bikes in the woods, and hiked some easy trails in the mountains. We looked around the house to figure out what needed fixing. I ended up repairing a lot of things. My new boss helped out when he could. He was happy to lend a hand when I told him my issue. That's the nice thing about living in a small town. You can rely on each other during tough times. I also got a new fridge and dishwasher. "We need to start painting the inside, beginning with the kitchen," he said. "That sounds great," Mary replied, giving me a quick kiss on the cheek. "I can't thank you enough for what you're doing." I felt my face get warm from her kind words. I couldn't help but notice how lovely Mary was. She was a small woman with soft, fair skin and long, curly brown hair that reached her back. Her bright black eyes sparkled with kindness. I sensed that she was appreciating me too. We exchanged smiles. "I like working with my hands, and I enjoy spending time with both of you. It's perfect for me." "Thanks again for helping me out, Paul. You're a lifesaver." I made it a point to pick up Sabrina from school and drive her home in my truck. At first, her classmates stared at me with wide eyes. "Paul!" Sabrina shouted as she jumped into my truck. I focused on being like a dad even if I didn't have the title. Many happy memories filled my mind. I loved everything Sabrina liked. We read stories together. We watched Pixar movies. We cooked meals together. We also did repairs around the house. "Paul, what kind of woman do you like?" Sabrina asked me one day, out of the blue. I couldn't help but think of Mary and her lovely dark hair. That day we were painting Sabrina's bedroom walls a pretty shade of salmon with bright, sunny yellow accents. She picked the colors all by herself. She had paint on her nose, her cheeks, her hands, and her arms. "I care more about who a person is than how they look," I said honestly. But I couldn't help thinking about Mary's long legs and how nice she looked. I hadn't felt this way about anyone in a long time. It was nice to know I could still feel attracted to someone. "Just a simple girl from town," I added. "There are many girls like that in Middleton. Why don't you date anyone?" "I'm not really that great," I replied. "But if you keep this up, you'll never get married. Even I know you need to go out with someone first before you can be really serious." "Where did you hear that from?" I asked, looking at her closely. I heard some older girls at school talking about it. "What do you think being serious means?" "Getting married?" I let out a breath of relief. "No, it doesn't mean that." "Then it must mean something else, right? I thought you guys wanted that too." "What? No. Well, yes, but you should talk to your mom about this." "I already know about the birds and the bees, silly." This made Sabrina laugh again, and her laughter was so joyful that I couldn't help but laugh along with her. "Mom said you were married before." "Yes, I was." "Why did she leave you?" "Do you know what cheating means?" She nodded. "It's when you copy someone's answers on a test." "That's correct. Cheating means someone is dishonest on purpose. My ex-wife cheated on me." "She wasn't truthful with you." "Yes, that's right. She looked for another husband while still being married to me." Sabrina shook her head in disbelief. "Why would she do that? You're a good person. I like you." "Thank you, Sabrina. I like you too." To answer your question, she wanted someone who made more money than I did. "Mom and I don't have a lot of money. People say we're poor. You were poor too?" "We lived a bit better than your mom and you, but we weren't rich. Our way of living didn't satisfy her." "I guess she would say we didn't have much money." "Why's that?" She wanted a bigger house, a nicer car, pretty jewelry, fancy clothes, and things like that. Some women always want more. Not all of them. Mom isn't like that, Sabrina replied, watching me closely. Your mom is a wonderful person. Do you like her? I do. Are you going to marry her and be my dad? Sabrina's eyes sparkled with excitement. I gently placed my hand on Sabrina's shoulder and said, I'm not sure your mom would want to marry me. Why not? I can be moody. I find it hard to trust. Plus, I'll probably never have a lot of money. You're not moody. You're funny. You have so much patience with me, and who needs to be rich? We're happy just the way we are. Sabrina jumped into my arms and hugged me tight. I would pick you to be my dad any time, she whispered in my ear. Thank you, Sabrina. For what it's worth, I would pick you to be my daughter. That made Sabrina smile brightly. The next day, when Mary came home from work, she took me aside and said quietly, Next weekend is Sabrina's birthday. She looked nice in her waitress uniform, even better than I expected. That's great. Do you have any plans? Nothing big, just a small celebration for the three of us, pizza and cake. You know she doesn't have many friends. I don't want her to feel sad if nobody comes. Sounds good to me, I replied, but inside I felt different. I thought we were done talking, but I could tell Mary had more on her mind. I'm worried about her. She should have friends. She looks lonely. I was a lot like Sabrina, I said, looking down at my hands, which were squeezed between my knees. I couldn't sit still. I was a handful. I did a lot of silly things. That's how I got my ex-wife expecting a baby. Mary nodded, but I saw that she was still thinking about her daughter. What happened with Sabrina's dad, if you don't mind me asking? Mary shook her head, trying to shake off the sad memories. She said, He left us. You weren't the only one who made mistakes when you were young. I was a troubled teenager. I ran away from home and got involved with the wrong people. Then I found out I was going to have a baby. He stayed for a while, but he didn't have a steady job and drank a lot. The first time he hurt me, I went straight to the police. He took off, and I haven't seen him since. I reached out to my parents, but when they found out I was having a baby, they wanted nothing to do with me. They gave me this house that used to belong to my grandparents just to feel better. They also gave me a little money. That was unkind. I couldn't help but think about when my own wife and daughter chose to leave me. Mary shrugged. I left home for a good reason. With everything you faced, you're doing really well. I found myself drawn to the soft blush on her cheeks and the way the wind danced with her long hair. When the sun hit it just right, Mary's hair looked more deep blue than black. I felt sad knowing that no one would join Sabrina for her birthday party. No child should celebrate alone. So I decided to surprise her. I spoke with the firefighters and the sheriff. I explained what was happening and they understood. It wasn't an emergency, but they agreed to help. I also talked to Mary's boss, Red Harding. He and his chef, Tony Marino, promised they would come too. Sabrina had blown out the candles, and we were enjoying chocolate cake while she opened her presents. I had chatted with Mary about getting her daughter a laptop as a special gift. She said it was a lot at first, but she finally agreed when I told her it would help with her schoolwork. Mary made a new dress for Sabrina. Then we saw bright lights and heard sirens and car horns. Sabrina ran outside and saw a police car and a fire truck with a big sign on the side that said, "Happy birthday, Sabrina." Sheriff Bert Thomas and his helper Nick Wallace walked up to the house and greeted Sabrina. They gave her a toy sheriff badge and a hat that said Deputy. The firefighters made Sabrina an honorary firefighter. She received a uniform and a certificate. "Wow, this is amazing," said Sabrina. She was so excited that she was jumping up and down. It warmed all our hearts. The look on her face was like magic. They let her try the fire truck equipment, and she even sat in the driver's seat. Then Red Harding came by with his chef. He was carrying 2 big paper bags filled with special ingredients. Soon we found ourselves making white chocolate strawberry cookies and singing songs in Italian. Everyone stuck around for cookies and cake. The police, the firefighters, and Mary's boss joined in singing happy birthday for her, leaving Sabrina with maybe the best gift ever, a lesson in kindness. What could have been a sad letdown turned into a wonderful surprise. Sabrina hugged me and said softly, "Thank you, Daddy," and my heart felt warm. Mary smiled at me and quietly said, "Thank you." Everyone in town saw Mary, Sabrina, and me as a happy family of three. Maybe it was time to make it formal. I never thought I could love again after my heart was broken. But then Mary and Sabrina came into my life and everything changed. I understood that I was ready to love again. I wanted to be a dad again. I wanted to have a family, a home, a life again. The next Monday, Sabrina and I were working on her homework when a knock at the door made me frown. I looked at Sabrina, and she shrugged her shoulders. A woman I didn't know holding a briefcase stood at the door. "Good morning, how can I help you?" I asked. "Megan Crapper, Social Services," she said. For a moment, I felt confused and didn't know what to say. I pushed myself to speak. "I don't recall setting up a meeting." "This is a surprise visit," Miss Crapper replied with a smile. "We like to do these." I glanced at Sabrina. She didn't show fear easily, but I could see she was nervous about social services. I stepped aside to let the woman in. "Thank you, Mr. Olson. Paul Olson. I'm the nanny and handyman here. Would you like to take a seat, Miss Crapper?" "Miss Crapper?" She sat down in a chair as far from me as possible, glanced around, and started writing in her folder. "This place looks a lot better than last time." "I've been making some updates." The woman nodded and jotted something down. "Do you want some coffee?" "No, thank you." I looked at the social services lady. She seemed to be in her late 50s, although her plain suit and pulled-back hair made it hard to tell. "How long have you been here, Mr. Olson?" "About 6 months. I pick up Sabrina from school and help her with her homework." I pointed to the books on the table. "Then we do some projects around the house. We painted her room together." I smiled at Sabrina, and she gave a shy smile back. Ms. Crapper nodded and wrote another note. "How are the girls' grades?" "Much better. I think you already visited her school." Miss Crapper didn't look up. "It's better if I ask you." "So you can check if I'm honest?" Now she looked up at me. "Do you—" "Of course not. Have you taken care of children before?" "I raised a 16-year-old daughter, so yes, I have." "Where is your daughter now?" I guessed. "College." "And your wife?" "Divorced." "How do you and Sabrina get along?" she asked. "Really well." Sabrina smiled at me. I gave her a wink. "Paul is already part of our family," she said. The social worker looked at Sabrina, then at me and stood up. "Can I see the rest of the house?" Sure." I led her into the living room. "You recently painted this?" "Yeah, we did. The carpet is new, too." She checked the bedrooms, likely to make sure Sabrina was sleeping alone. "What about Sabrina's room?" "It's the one with the frozen sheets." She made a note in her file and looked back at me. "And yours?" "I like Star Trek." She didn't smile or even blink. "I sleep in the camper parked in the back of the house. They allowed me to get power and water in return for my help." She tried to keep eye contact, but there was no need for a staring match. "Can I see?" Miss Crapper pointed to Sabrina's room with her head. "Sure." I walked into the kitchen and started tidying up while she did what she needed to do in Sabrina's room. Miss Crapper returned, still writing in her notebook. "So," I asked, "how did we do?" "Better than I thought," she admitted. Knowing Miss Crapper was listening, I continued. "Sabrina and her mom deserve a break." The social worker nodded thoughtfully. "I believe you're right." When Mary heard the news, she was very happy. She had gotten the story from Sabrina, but she came to my camper to hear my side and thank me in person. It was late and Sabrina was already asleep. "Thank you, Paul," she said. "My debt to you keeps getting bigger." She hugged me really tightly and gave me a gentle kiss on the lips. I just stood there, not sure how to respond. "Sorry." "Are you sorry about the kiss because I'm not?" She smiled at me and my heart raced. "This happened because of you. You saved Sabrina and me. We are so lucky to have you. I can't even imagine how our lives would be without you." Mary wrapped her arms around my neck and I felt something I hadn't felt since my divorce. "Love, yes, I felt excited too." Mary smiled and leaned closer to me. I sighed. "Look, Paul, I'm not good at hiding my feelings." "I love you," Mary whispered, her arms squeezing me tighter. "What do you feel for me?" She bit her lip and looked up at me with hope. I gazed into her deep, dark eyes and whispered back, "I love you too, Mary." The happiness in her eyes showed that no one had ever told her that before. We kissed again, deeply, and thing happens. I woke up the next morning with a strange feeling of another person lying next to me. It took me a moment to remember what had happened the night before. Then I caught the smell of Mary on the pillow and everything came back to me. It was Sunday and we all had the day off, but I thought Sabrina was probably awake by now. "Good morning, beautiful," I whispered to her. Those words made her smile. We took a quick shower in the camper and hurried into the house. Sabrina was already having breakfast. She looked at her mom, studying her face. She didn't seem upset about what had happened. Instead, there was a spark of excitement in her eyes. Then she looked at me and asked, "Did you really do it?" "Sabrina!" we both shouted at the same time. She jumped up and ran over to us, wrapping her arms around us while crying on her mom's shoulder. "I knew it! I just knew it!" she exclaimed. When we let her go, I felt a pull on my pants. "Can I finally call you Daddy?" Sabrina's face was bright with hope. I knelt down to her level. "Only if I can tell everyone you are my daughter?" "Yay!" She started dancing around with happiness. We all hugged her again. We were now a family, even though I hadn't asked Mary to marry me yet. She didn't seem to mind, but I knew I had to get a ring for her soon. We sat down at the table to eat breakfast as a family. "So," Sabrina asked, "how soon can I get a brother or sister?" We wanted a small, private wedding, but that didn't happen. When I told my boss about the wedding, he and my coworkers wanted to join in. In a small town like Middletown, keeping a secret was nearly impossible. News traveled quickly. Mary's boss let us use the restaurant for the reception at no cost. Tony, the restaurant's chef, said he would handle the food for us. Sheriff Thomas and the firefighters heard about the event and offered to help, so we invited them too. Mary's coworkers were just as excited as she was. I lost track of how many people were going to come. My mom and sister were also on their way. At the same time, we started the process to adopt Sabrina as my daughter. I took her shopping for a ring, as she was going to be her mother's special helper. Percy, the owner of the bed and breakfast and my boss, was going to be my best man. We planned to get married at our local church. The day of their wedding came almost a month after Mary and I had spent the night together. The church yard was filled with pickup trucks and cars of all kinds. On the day of the wedding, my mom, my sister, and brother-in-law arrived in Middletown. Sabrina rushed to welcome my mom. She looked beautiful in her bridesmaid dress. "Are you my grandma?" she asked. My mom's face lit up. She picked up Sabrina and said, "Yes, I am." "You look great in a tux, Paul," my sister said. Mary and I got married, and almost everyone in town came to celebrate. The church was packed. We could not have imagined a more beautiful wedding. That day marked the start of many happy days together. "Thank goodness for small miracles," I said. My wife looked at me and replied, "Speaking of miracles." She gently placed her hand on her belly. 6 years later, the doorbell rang, and it brought someone from my past. "Hello, Dad." "Elise, what are you doing here? You can't just show up at my door like this." "I don't have anything to say to you." I tried to shut the door, but she pushed it back open with her hand. "Dad, please. I stopped being your dad the day you decided to turn your back on me for no good reason. Now you can call me Paul." She rolled her eyes. "Paul? Seriously? What do you want, Elise? If you're looking for help, the answer is still no." "Can we go inside and talk, please?" "No, we can't. This is my family home, and you're not welcome here." "I was just a confused teenager, Dad. I'm sorry, but I won't call you Paul. My parents got divorced. I started a new life with a new house, new school, and new friends. Everything was so exciting for me. I got lost in it all and forgot about you and the pain you felt. You chose him and his money over me." Elise stood there, unsure of what to say next. "Don't you love me anymore?" she asked, looking sad. I loved the little girl who looked up to me and loved me back. Not the fancy girl who left me for someone richer. I felt tears welling up. After all this time, I didn't think I could feel so much. A 16-year-old girl named Sabrina ran up and hugged me tightly. She had grown into a beautiful teenager, and many boys in Middletown were smitten with her. Her eyes glared at my former daughter. "He is my dad now. He's the best dad ever. All my friends wish they had a dad like him. You can't take him back. You left him behind. He's mine now, and we're happy. Just go away." Are you going to introduce me, Dad? My former daughter asked, looking a bit annoyed by Sabrina's words. This is my older daughter, Sabrina. Sabrina's voice turned sharp. You hurt him. Did you know that? You hurt the man who loved you more than anything in the world. I can't think of anyone colder than you, except maybe your mother. What's the matter with you, princess? Elise was now crying freely. I know I deserve this and more. You are both right about me. I became selfish. At least we agree on that, I replied, feeling hurt. Elise continued to cry. I wanted to comfort her but held back. 2 blocks north, there's a place called The Jammed. I don't have much to say to you, but I'll listen to what you want to say there. 10 minutes later, Sabrina and I made our way to the restaurant. I couldn't convince my daughter to stay home. She was as stubborn as she was lovely. I can tell the difference between real feelings and fake ones, Dad, and I don't trust her. Elise picked a booth in a corner. Sabrina and I sat across from her. This is your time, Elise. Speak your mind and then go back to your fancy life. She wiped her tears. I was hoping you would have forgiven me by now. I hoped we could move on from what happened, but I see now I was being too hopeful. Why should we? You never said sorry for what you did. The last thing you told me was that I made your life bad. Honestly, I hardly think about my old life. It was filled with unhappy memories. I lost my home, my job, and most importantly, my wife and daughter. What did I do to deserve that? Nothing at all. You knew about your mom's actions and never told me. Then every time you visited, you made my life hard. You were bored. I wasn't fun enough. I couldn't compete with that doctor to get you better places at concerts. And now, you just show up unexpectedly and think, what? That I will just forget everything? That's unbelievable. Sabrina held out her hand, and I placed a quarter on it. My whole body shook as I felt the feelings I had buried deep inside me coming back to the surface. Sabrina held my hand tightly, still glaring at my former daughter. Elise wiped away her tears. You're right again. I'm sorry, Dad. I'm very, very sorry. I hurt you for no reason other than my own selfishness. I tried to call you, but your old number didn't work. I went to our old house and found out you had moved away. I even asked Grandma for your number, but she didn't know or didn't want to tell me where you were. How long did it take you to figure that out, after you got the check from my lawyer? She nodded. So, you didn't try to contact me for a whole month. You're right, I didn't. I was upset with you because of those posters you made. People were looking down on us. If the shoe fits, Sabrina muttered. I smiled a little. What are you doing here, Elise? I met a boy in college. His name is Roger. He comes from a nice family. By nice, do you mean rich? Elise nodded. I shook my head. I stared at the girl who used to be my daughter, really seeing her for the first time. I still didn't know why she was back in my life, but I suspected there was a reason for her sudden return. I'm getting married, and I want you to meet my fiancé and walk me down the aisle at the wedding. Why? She looked confused. Because no matter what, you're still my dad. What about Dr. Dick? Are your mom and him still together? Yes, Dad, they are. Why isn't he walking you down the aisle then? I guess he's paying for everything. Yes, he is. Well, half of it. Roger's parents want to cover the other half. I don't understand. What is there to understand? Elise looked upset now. You are my father, and I want you there. When did you finish school? A couple of years ago. Why? Because I wasn't invited to your graduation. She opened her mouth and then closed it. I could see that things weren't going the way she thought they would. Well, I didn't know where you lived or your new phone number. I felt something was off. I began to think Sabrina was right about Elise. Did you try to find me? I asked. No, I didn't. How did you find me now? I hired a private investigator. So, you didn't care about me 2 years ago, but now you do? You picked Dr. Dick over me again and again. Now you want me to walk you down the aisle. What's different? She looked down. There's something you're not telling me, Elise. The real reason you're here. It's about Roger. Your fiancé. This nice guy from a good family that you're going to marry. Yes, I really love him. We've been together for years. When he proposed, we went to meet his family. They live in another state. After the wedding, we will live there. That's great for you, I said. Now stop putting it off and tell me where I fit into all this. Well, of course, he wants to meet my family before the wedding. You mean the woman he's with and Dr. Richard? Yes, that's the issue. I recently learned that Roger's dad divorced his first wife because she was unfaithful. Go on. With Richard. I burst out laughing. Dad, that's not funny. I think it's hilarious. Everything makes sense now. It looks like Dr. Richard is finally getting what he deserves, and it seems like you and your mom are caught up in it too, in a way. Come on, Dad. I handed another quarter to Sabrina, who was laughing too. My last name isn't Kavanaugh, so they won't suspect anything. Roger doesn't know Richard is Mom's husband. Elise shivered. I found out by chance when Roger told me about his parents' divorce and mentioned that his mom was unfaithful with a surgeon named Richard. I knew Richard lived in the same state as Roger's family, so I had to ask. Richard told me he is the man who ruined Roger's parents' marriage. I'm worried that if my fiancé finds out, he might end our engagement. I can't lose him, Dad. I love him. Eli, this is insane. You can't start your marriage with lies. You don't lie to people you care about. What did you say about me to Roger? I told him you are busy with work. Really? What do I do for a job? Did you say I'm a welder? What's my new job? Did you get me a script so I can learn my lines? Dad, sarcasm isn't helping. Good, because I can't help you. I feel like you're not my daughter anymore. I'm thinking about getting a DNA test to see if you really are mine. You can't be my child and act like this. Did you forget everything I taught you? Seriously, Eli, I barely know you anymore. Elise clasped her hands together. Dad, please, do this for me, and I promise I won't bother you again. We're moving to a different state, closer to Roger's family. It's unlikely that they will run into Mom and Richard. What about Thanksgiving or Christmas? Will I have to work again on those holidays? What will happen when your first baby is born and I can't be there? I was thinking about telling Roger that Mom and you grew apart because of your job, which is why you split up. If you tell one lie, you'll need to tell 10 more to cover it. He won't believe that. If you say you and Mom got divorced, he will want to make sure she doesn't spend the holidays alone. What about Dr. Dick? Are you going to hide him somewhere? Richard is not happy about what's happened, but he wants to help me. He's even offering to pay for my wedding and let you walk me down the aisle. I'm ready to cut ties with Mom and Richard after the wedding if things get too messy. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You've really taken after your mother. It's like you only think about yourself, I said, feeling so let down. I'm sorry, Elise. I can't be part of this act. What you're doing is wrong. It shows you don't have any values or respect for what's right. Dad, I love Roger. I can't lose him. Then you need to tell him the truth. Be honest with him. See if your love is strong enough to handle it. Don't build your future on lies. As for us, I don't think we can fix our relationship. Our beliefs are just too different. Daddy, please. She was crying now. I couldn't tell if her tears were real or not. I'm not your daddy anymore, so please don't call me that. My daughter disappeared the moment you chose a wealthier man who lacks morals. I won't keep secrets from your fiancé. If you want me to walk you down the aisle, I will. But first, I need to speak with Roger. I will tell him everything honestly. I got up and Sabrina did the same. Let me give you some advice. It's not a good idea to lie to your fiancé. He will find out the truth eventually. Elise's face turned bright red with anger. Shut up, old man. Mom was right about you. You're just a loser. Before I could say anything, Sabrina slapped Elise hard enough to send her to the ground. By the time my shocked daughter got back up, she saw Sabrina standing in front of me looking fierce. Say one more bad thing about my dad and I'll make sure you regret it, Sabrina warned. Get out of this town, you lying fool. Elise spun around and hurried out of the restaurant. I held out my hand. Pay me. She returned one of my coins. I love you, Dad. I love you too, Sabrina. Epilogue. Later my mother told me that Elise went through with the wedding. I didn't know who walked her down the aisle. True to her word, Elise cut Louise and the doctor out of her life after the wedding. I can only imagine how many new stories Elise had to come up with to explain her choices to her new husband. When you get tangled up in lies, it affects many parts of your life. You live with the worry of being found out. That's probably why Elise's marriage ended. Roger divorced her 2 years after the wedding. Louise wasn't happy to be left out of her daughter's life. She blamed the doctor for losing her daughter. I guess it's tough when the tables are turned. The situation caused a big problem between Louise and Richard, leading them to get a divorce. Dr. Dick was unfaithful, but he was clever too. Louise had signed a contract before they married, so when he left her, she didn't do very well in the divorce. Last I heard, my ex-wife was working as a nurse again and living in a small apartment. Honestly, I didn't mind. I felt great. Today, I'm walking Sabrina down the aisle. But that's a different story. Before moving on to the second story, please let me know your opinion. Do you like the story long or short, a series or separate parts? The comment section is always welcome, and don't forget to let me know which of these two stories you like better. Story 2. The Gift Another Bus. How many buses can you see in one day? I really dislike coming to these expos. I never liked chatting with salespeople, and transit salespeople are the worst. They know you have money to spend, and they are eager to help you spend it. I had a manager to report to, so I sat through another bus presentation. The sales lady was talking about their new low-floor model. I sat down in one of the passenger seats while she continued her speech. The seat was quite comfy, which caught me off guard. I looked closely at the one beside me and touched the cushion and soft fabric that felt nice. I couldn't help but think, these won't hold up for long in real use. Passengers often bring all kinds of things onto the seats, and that doesn't even include the damage they might cause on purpose. The sales lady noticed my worry. We would never suggest these seats for regular use, Mr. Pritchard. She smiled, and it made the bus feel a bit cheerier. We have a large range of tougher seats available. We work with Friedman to meet your needs. Of course they do. I just couldn't understand why they would show us something we wouldn't really buy. I nodded my head to let her know she didn't need to keep talking about that. Sadly, this gave her a chance to talk about all the other partners her company works with. She quickly mentioned companies that make GPS systems, signs, people counters, smart fare boxes, and a lot of other big transit companies. I tried not to yawn. Everyone on the bus already knew about all the companies she listed. There aren't many companies that make GPS systems for buses. We all listened politely as she went on and on. I had been on my feet for almost 4 hours, and it was starting to wear me out. So I stayed in my seat and pretended to pay attention by looking at what she pointed out. But my thoughts drifted away from her boring speech. How did I end up spending 20 years working for a bus company? I never imagined as a kid that I would work for a bus company. I kind of grew into my job, and now I feel stuck. I know so much about public transportation that my work has become easy. Problems that used to surprise me now just make me smile. I earn too much money to start fresh somewhere else, and my retirement plan is really good. Life has been fine. My wife Mary and I live in a nice house, and we never have to worry about money or my job. Still, I feel like my life is missing some excitement that I think other jobs might offer. I was about to check my phone for the market updates when something caught my eye inside the bus. A woman in a flowing black dress stepped through the side door. She had long black hair that fell straight down her back just like Mary's. She wore nice high heels with straps around her tanned ankles. The heels made her legs look great before they disappeared behind the elegant dress. The dress hugged her shape nicely, highlighting her slim waist and covering her chest. The collar was high, so I couldn't see the nice neckline I imagined was there. She had bright, sparkling eyes and wore a lipstick that made her lips look smooth without being too shiny. She reminded me of my wife, but a bit younger and with a fuller figure. I noticed I was staring and quickly looked back at the foldable wheelchair the saleswoman was showing. It was hard to catch a glimpse of the lovely woman as she walked down the bus aisle. I am married, and would never think of betraying my wife, but I was still a man. I really wanted to take in her features. The transit field has its share of attractive women, but she stood out. She looked like someone who could work in a big law firm in Manhattan, or play a lawyer on a TV show. I saw that some of the other men on the bus also seemed to lose interest in the sales talk. I felt a bit nervous when she walked towards me down the aisle. She reached my seat and quickly turned to sit in the spot right across from me. Her dress brushed against my arm, making me shiver a little. I liked the feeling but felt silly for it. Even if I was looking for someone, this girl seemed way too special for me. I glanced over as she sat down. She gave me a warm smile and started to rub her ankle. I responded with a goofy grin, not really sure how to act around someone so beautiful. Picked the wrong shoes, she said softly. I looked behind us and saw that the seats were empty. I couldn't believe she was talking to me. I wish my wife was here to help me feel more comfortable. I didn't know what to say, or if I should say anything at all. I just knew what my wife wanted after a long day in her shoes. I used my toes to push against the backs of my shoes and slipped them off. She noticed me since she was focused on her own feet and laughed a little before removing her shoes, too. I felt a bit better, glad I could help. It felt nice to let my feet breathe. We both looked back at the saleswoman who was showing how the wheelchair lift worked. The saleswoman took hold of the lift control and pulled it out of the car to keep showing us how it worked. Most people moved closer to see. I stayed back a bit and kept wiggling my toes. My new friend didn't leave my side. I looked over at her and decided to start a chat. Because we both had tired feet, I felt less nervous. "Is this your first expo?" I figured it was since she was the only woman not wearing sporty shoes. "Yes," she said with a smile that was nicer than I thought it would be. I didn't expect it to feel like a long walk. She reached out her hand. "I'm Kathy, by the way." I took her hand, but it wasn't really a shake. It felt more like a gentle touch. "Doug Pritchard?" I said. Her hand was as soft as it looked. My wife's hands were just as soft. I started to miss home. I realized I was still holding her hand, and when she looked down at it, I awkwardly let it go and put my hand back to my side. "Are you looking for buses?" she asked, still smiling even though I had almost pulled away too fast. "No, our buses still have 7 years of use left," I said, trying to keep my eyes on hers. "I'm just here to stay updated." I smiled back at her since she kept smiling. "Are you looking for any?" "Oh, not at all. I'm new and just trying to understand everything around here." She began putting her heels back on, breaking our eye contact. "All of this is new to me. I never thought getting around the city could be so complicated. To someone who doesn't know much about it, public transport seems easy. But in reality, it's very complicated and the rules keep changing. Don't worry, it becomes easier over time." I wasn't sure if she planned to stay in this job. If she asked me, I would tell her to leave now and not look back. She started on her second shoe. "Doug, I'm kind of on my own right now. Would you like to have lunch with me?" She looked up while fastening her last heel. You have to know this was a really unusual situation for me. Women like Kathy never wanted to have lunch with me, even when I felt confident. It caught me off guard, and I responded awkwardly. "I'm married," I said, before I realized it might sound like I thought she wanted more than just a meal. She laughed. "I hope it's a happy laugh." Her smile was so bright. "You're lucky to have someone with you." "Oh no, Mary didn't come this time." I felt a bit embarrassed. I couldn't really look at Kathy's face. I felt too silly. "It's just a sandwich, Doug. I really don't like sitting alone in places like this." She stood up, waiting for me to say something. "Of course, I'm sorry." I was a bit clumsy with my words. "I didn't mean anything by it." I quickly put on my shoes and followed her off the bus, ignoring the worker still showing how the wheelchair lift worked. "There's a great deli on the corner. They make a turkey bacon melt I never miss when I come here." I pointed at the doors that seemed so far away across the convention hall. "So, are you here for all 4 days?" She started to chat as we walked toward the deli. "Yep, we'll be flying out Sunday evening. How about you?" Small talk felt silly, but it was better than just staying quiet. "Yes, I'm flying out Monday morning." She walked a little faster now. "This is the first time someone has paid me to travel. I'm trying to find some time for sightseeing." She glanced at me. "Can you do that?" "Of course. If you show a little interest at a booth, they will treat you to nice meals around the city." I felt like a teacher sharing advice. "The bus company we just used has rented a riverboat for the evening. You get free food and drinks if you act interested." I liked being the travel guide. I usually only enjoyed those perks when my wife was with me. "You mean on the Mississippi River?" I could see her becoming curious. "Yep, they have all kinds of entertainment planned." I pointed ahead as we stepped out of the event. My stomach rumbled as we got closer to the deli. We waited patiently for the crosswalk light. "How many times have you been here?" More small talk was better than just staring at the cars. "This is my 3rd time." The light still hadn't changed. "I usually go every 3 years when they have the big event." I glanced at her. I often skip the smaller ones. I pretended I had a choice, but really it was my boss who decided when I could go. The light changed, and we walked to the deli. I loved how her dress moved gently in the light breeze. It reminded me of when Mary used to wear summer dresses that caught my eye just like Kathy's did now. When we entered, a few people looked our way. I knew they weren't interested in me. Kathy seemed calm and ignored them. I felt proud. They were curious about my secret. Little did they know it was simply the right place, right time. I ordered my favorite bacon turkey melt and an iced tea. Kathy got a half sandwich with a side salad. We picked a table by the window so we could watch people outside. Even though Kathy was very beautiful, she was easy to talk to. We spent lunch chatting about movies and TV shows. I tried to learn more about her, but she avoided the topic and said she didn't want to talk about work. I respected that and shifted our conversation back to the Game of Thrones. I had never seen women like her as real people before. They always seemed so far away to me. But Kathy felt real and close, even though I wouldn't think of her in a personal way. I was just enjoying our lunch together. I reminded myself to call my wife later that evening. On the way back to the expo, Kathy almost lost her balance on the curb, and I quickly grabbed her arm to stop her from falling. I was surprised at how fast I reacted and how steady I was. I had never been very good at sports and usually would mess up a move like that. I helped her stand tall and smiled. "Better be careful with those iced teas." She laughed at my silly joke. "Thank goodness I had a hero with me," Kathy said with a smile as she checked her heels to make sure they were okay. "Next time I really need to wear sneakers," I said. I was still holding her arm, even though she seemed steady now. Her skin felt soft and warm. It was nice, but I thought it was best to let go. We walked to the expo, moving a little slowly. We went through the big doors we had used earlier. I felt a bit awkward. I wasn't sure how to say goodbye and go on with my day. I knew she had better things to do than follow me around. "I need to check out some booths for fixed-root software this afternoon," I explained. Our current software was causing problems, which meant we were wasting a lot of time. "Okay, I'm going to look at the rail cars," she replied, looking a little unsure. These expos were huge and kind of overwhelming. "Thanks for lunch. It was nice," she said, smiling at me. I felt my face get warm. "Of course, any time. I'm sure we'll see each other again," I said, starting to step back. Before I got married, I would have done anything just to be near her, and now I was trying to think of a reason to leave. I turned away a bit too fast and started to walk off. "Doug." Her voice sounded like an afterthought. I turned back, curious about what she wanted. "Could you help me figure out how to get on that riverboat?" She tilted her head slightly, glancing at me from under her lashes. It was a cute look. I couldn't just walk away, and I think she knew that too. "Of course, Kathy. Just follow me." I felt like I was the teacher and she was the eager student. I led her back to the bus where we first met. She smiled and walked right beside me. What seemed tricky for someone new was easy for me. Luckily, the same saleswoman was still there and the bus was empty. I looked at her name tag. "Hi, Debbie. We are thinking about a big service expansion." I asked, "Can you give me some contact details for your tech team? We need to create some project specs." It felt like tempting a fish with bait. "I can help you even more, Doug." She was focused on my name tag. "All of our techs and the owner will be available tonight. Would you and Kathy like to join us on a riverboat cruise tonight?" She took the bait, just as I thought she would. "That sounds amazing, Debbie." I smiled and Kathy nudged me gently. It felt like we had known each other forever. We followed Debbie to a small desk where she pulled out a couple of tickets from a drawer. "Meet at Pier 3 between 5:30 and 6 o'clock. Debbie pointed to the instructions on the tickets. "Come hungry and thirsty." She beamed as she handed each of us a ticket. I thanked her, and we walked away from the booth together. That was easy. Kathy grabbed my arm for a moment, a friendly way to show her appreciation for the ticket. "Are you going tonight?" I was surprised she asked. "I'm not sure. I usually only go to the free events with my wife." I didn't know why I brought up Mary again. Maybe I felt guilty being with someone as attractive as Kathy without telling Mary. Or maybe I felt worse about the silly thoughts in my head. Kathy laughed a little at my uncertainty. "Well, I'm going. I'd really like to see you there to have someone to chat with." Kathy gave me a sad look, showing she felt alone. "I'll think about it." I wasn't sure why she wanted me there. We didn't even work together. "How about this? Call your wife and say you need to help a friend." She smiled at me again. If she's okay with it, come meet me. Kathy said this as she walked away. Thanks for lunch. Then she turned and went down the aisles. I felt pretty foolish. Kathy figured out that I couldn't go riverboating with her unless I talked to Mary first. I didn't really think Kathy was interested in me, but I acted like I did. I was surprised she didn't just say goodbye and leave. She was very attractive, but I guessed she only wanted a friendly face at the party tonight. I finally got back to the hotel around 4 o'clock. My feet were sore, so I walked around barefoot, hoping the carpet had been cleaned recently. I lay down on the bed and called Mary. Hi, honey. That had been my greeting for the last 25 years. Hi, baby. Are you having fun? We called each other honey and baby. You might think we would have stopped that by now, but it just felt natural. Same old stuff, just new salespeople. She already knew that since she had been to a few before. I wish you were here. Me too. I wasn't sure if I really meant it, but I knew she missed me. What do you want to do for your birthday? I totally forgot my birthday was next week. It came up on me faster than I expected. I don't know. Maybe we could go to that seafood place we enjoyed a few months ago. We usually just picked a spot to eat. We weren't really into big parties. I really liked that stuffed flounder they have. The Gentle Wave? I'll make a reservation and we can change it if you want to go somewhere else. Mary liked to have everything organized. I already got you a gift, you know. She tried to sound mysterious. I had some thoughts about what I wanted, but I didn't think that was what she meant. Are you going to make me wait? I would let her play her little game. She wanted to see if I was curious. Truthfully, there wasn't anything in stores that would excite me. We had both moved past wanting many things. Comfort and simple pleasures like that stuffed flounder meant more to us now. Well, not until your birthday, but yes, it's a secret for now. I could almost hear her smiling. I received a mysterious answer that left me thinking. I realized it might already be in my house, and I would find it when I got home. I felt like she enjoyed teasing me. What are you doing for dinner tonight? I thought. Two can play at this teasing game. Actually, a young woman asked me to join her on a riverboat cruise. I smiled, but tried to sound casual. I heard a little giggle on the other end of the call. And is this young woman pretty? She really knew me well. There was no way I would ever be unfaithful to her. Honestly, she is very attractive. I had always been truthful with my wife, and I wasn't going to change that. We connected over our tired feet and ended up sharing lunch at the deli. So this is your second date, then? She laughed again. Maybe I shouldn't let you go to the expo anymore. I think I am just a friend to help her out. I shared the truth. She's new to the expo and is here by herself. I didn't say I was going to leave. I wanted her to understand that she was my one and only. Doug, don't just sit in that hotel room. Go help the girl before everyone gets drunk. That's true. Seeing people in transit with too much to drink is not a good thing. I was happy Mary believed in me, or at least in my ability to not attract young women. Okay, I'll go, but don't blame me if it doesn't go well. I could hear more giggling on the other end of the line. Yep, she trusted that I wasn't very charming. After a moment, she said, "You know I love you, right?" I already knew the answer, but I like to hear it every now and then. Yes, and I love you more than you know. She sounded a bit more serious than usual. Something about her voice felt more genuine than normal. I liked how she expressed it. We said our goodbyes, and I promised to call her tomorrow. Hearing Mary say she loved me made me feel warm inside. Maybe I would finally get what I really wanted for my birthday. Mary in my arms, close to me. We had stopped being intimate a few years ago. Mary didn't seem interested anymore. I wasn't sure why this happened, but we hadn't been close like that for 2 years. Before that, we were as active as most couples, and Mary seemed to enjoy our time together. I tried to show her that I wanted to be close again, but she always turned me down gently. I even brought up the topic directly, but the conversation never stayed on that subject for long. I started to think that if I wanted that kind of connection, I might have to manage it on my own for the rest of my life. Even without that closeness, my marriage would be fine. I still held on to the good memories of our earlier days, so I never felt like I was missing out completely. I just missed the warmth and affection from Mary. I know I can manage without intimacy. I didn't want to push Mary about it anymore. I thought talking more might just cause stress and bad feelings. So I decided to wait for her, even if it took a long time. I jumped in the shower to get ready for the boat. After being at the expo for 6 hours, I felt dirty and needed some warm water to feel better. I knew it wasn't a date, but I felt a little excited thinking about a nice woman waiting for me tonight. It reminded me of when I dated Mary before we got married. I felt a mix of excitement and nerves back then because I wasn't sure how she felt. Now, we know we love each other, and while that's comfortable, I do miss the thrill. After I dried off, I put on jeans and a rust-colored shirt. I chose my comfy shoes, which felt more like soft slippers. I wasn't sure if they were fashionable, but they sure felt good on my feet. I was happy it was warm outside, so I didn't have to carry a jacket around. Free food, free drinks, and a lovely companion by my side. That's how to make an old man happy. I got to the pier a bit later than I had planned. I took the wrong path first and had to walk back along the river. By the time I arrived, everyone was getting on the boat, and I couldn't spot Kathy. I felt a little let down for not finding her at the dock. The boat wasn't too big, so I thought I could look around and find her that way. I hadn't even stepped down the first ramp before a drink was in my hand. I chose a scotch and water because I could sip it slowly and not rush. There were small tables with a bartender every 50 feet or so. I chuckled to myself, thinking about how traveling and drinking mix so easily. I hoped the crew wasn't drinking while working. I followed the sound of a smooth jazz band to the inside of the boat. The music was nice and matched the vibe of the riverboat perfectly. Beside the band, there was a small bar, and that's where I saw Kathy. She wore a nice green skirt and a light-colored blouse. Instead of heels, she had on some casual shoes. 2 younger men were talking to her, and she looked like she was having a good time. I felt a bit sad knowing I wasn't needed anymore. But then I smiled, thinking about my own dating days. I left her there and went up to the top deck to enjoy the view of the shore. It was a lovely night for a river cruise. The city lights looked far away when you couldn't hear the city sounds. Even with a few hundred people on board, I felt a bit lonely with my thoughts as we moved up the river. I leaned on the railing, happy to watch the sun trying to set over the water. "I'm so glad you came," Kathy said as she quietly walked up behind me and joined me at the railing. What a lovely night. She was sipping what looked like iced tea. "I saw you down there, and it seemed like you were having a good time." I smiled at her, and she smiled back. "I thought I would come and chat with you later." I was lying. I didn't want to be that annoying extra person while she talked to people closer to her age. "Those two? Please, Doug. They just wanted to chat about car stuff." She shrugged. "No offense, but everyone here is too excited about transit topics." I was a bit surprised. She sounded more like someone on the outside than someone who worked in transit. What did she expect by coming here? I was about to ask her where she worked when I realized I didn't really care. She had just told me she wasn't in the mood to talk about work. Well, the drinks are free, the jazz is nice, and the company is great. I raised my drink in a toast. She laughed, tapped her glass against mine, and took a sip. I couldn't believe she chose to spend time with me instead of those tall guys downstairs. Maybe she just wanted to feel safe and at ease tonight, and I could offer that. "Mary told me to look out for you tonight." Mentioning Mary made me feel good. I wanted Kathy to know how much I cared about my wife. "Well, I feel safer already," she said with a smile, linking her arm with mine. "Shall we get some more drinks?" Kathy didn't really wait for my reply. She guided me to the nearest bar. She ordered another Long Island iced tea, and I asked the bartender for more scotch since most of my ice was still there. We walked around the boat, arm in arm. I noticed people staring as I walked with this lovely girl. It was fun to think about the rumors that might start. Most knew I was married. Everyone knew I wasn't good at charming such a nice person. I decided to keep it a secret. It made me happy that people thought I was tougher than I really was. I felt someone tugging on my shoulder and turned to see my boss. "Doug, it's good to see you're getting out." He had a crooked grin. It seemed he had started drinking a bit earlier than everyone else. "Kathy, this is my boss, Frank." I felt a bit shy introducing Kathy to him. I'd only seen Frank drunk once before, and it wasn't a nice sight. He had been doing this job for almost 40 years. I guess that takes a toll on a person. "Hello, Frank." Kathy offered her hand, and Frank shook it. "It's nice to meet you." Frank was holding on a bit too long. "Kathy, I'm really glad you got this old stick in the mud out of his hotel room." Frank was almost slurring his words. Luckily, he was still standing straight. He usually just hides away at night. Sometimes friends aren't really friends. He was still holding Kathy's hand. I was trying to think of a good way to get us out of this situation without upsetting my boss. "Frank, Doug, and I are going to the buffet," Kathy said. She wasn't pulling her hand away. Instead, she was looking right at him. "Do you want to come with us?" "Oh, no. You two have a good time." He finally let go of Kathy's hand and waved us off. "I want to stay out here in the fresh air." He smiled and winked at me, like he thought we were bonding. But in his drunken state, it looked a bit silly. Kathy smiled and pulled me away from him. "He'll need someone to help him walk if he doesn't slow down," she laughed as she said it. Kathy was quick thinking, getting us away without making a scene. I was impressed. He's usually not like this. I found myself defending my boss for some reason. I guess everyone has fun sometimes. After 2 drinks, I wasn't feeling any discomfort either. Maybe we should eat something to slow down the pace. The buffet sounds like a great choice. We made our way onto the boat, following the signs for the buffet. As I thought, the buffet was amazing. There was something for everyone, so no one would leave hungry. Most of the food had a nice Creole touch, which I liked. I piled my plate high with food and laughed when I noticed Kathy doing the same. She wanted to eat on the top deck, and I was happy with that. I enjoyed watching the shore as the boat slowly moved along. I followed Kathy up the small stairs and found myself admiring her as she climbed. She looked great in that green skirt, and after a couple of drinks, I didn't feel shy about enjoying the view. I felt really proud of myself for reaching the top without spilling my food or drink. Kathy somehow found a quiet corner on the deck. It had 2 patio chairs and a small table for our snacks. This was just the right spot Mary and I would have chosen to enjoy some time together. I was surprised that someone like Kathy wanted to be away from the party, especially with someone like me. We ate our food quietly, sometimes pointing out things on the shore as the sun set. Soon, a server came over and asked if we wanted more drinks. Kathy said yes before I could even think about it. The server took our plates and quickly brought us fresh drinks. Kathy propped her feet up on the railing and relaxed. Her skirt slid up a little on her thigh, and I couldn't help but notice her strong legs. I wondered if they felt as smooth as they looked. Her arm reached over the small table between us, and her hand rested gently on my arm. "I'm glad you came with me, Doug." She wasn't looking at me, but it seemed innocent enough, so I let it stay. The drinks were starting to affect me. We sat there watching the sun go down, talking about things that didn't really matter. She liked some of the same TV shows I did. We didn't see eye to eye on politics, so we avoided that topic. It was a light chat with a few laughs. We went through 2 more rounds of drinks. The last one came before I even noticed I had ordered it. I was feeling tipsy, but I kept sipping anyway. Life felt good, and there was no reason to change anything. The band switched from smooth jazz to a lively dance beat with jazz hints. Kathy smiled and took my hand. "Come dance with me." She stood up before I could even respond. I got up with her, too excited to worry about my dancing skills. "I'm not very good at dancing," I said with a laugh as I followed her down the stairs. I felt carefree as we entered the band room. About 12 other couples were dancing around us. Kathy grabbed my hands and started swaying her hips. She looked amazing. I had never seen someone move like this up close. It was amazing to watch her. Kathy noticed me staring and playfully lifted my chin with her hand. When I looked at her face again, she put her hands on my hips and guided me to move with the music. A big smile spread across her face when I started to move, so I relaxed and let her lead me to the rhythm. After a song, the drinks made me feel brave, and I let myself enjoy it more while she danced freely. Watching Kathy was a real joy. I was dancing with the prettiest girl in the room, and I was having so much fun. She was enjoying herself too, using me to twirl around and move. I felt a little excited, but it was just dancing. I bet many guys in the room felt the same way watching her move so happily. There's something special about a happy woman that catches a man's attention. When the woman looks like Kathy, it's hard not to notice her. After the next song, we took a break to drink some water. I thought Kathy must go dancing often because she knew that the body needed water, not just drinks with alcohol. The water made me feel good, but it didn't change how I felt inside. Kathy quickly wanted to go back out on the dance floor for the next song. She looked amazing. I noticed some jealous looks from the guys standing nearby. My tipsy mind thought they were just out of luck. At least for tonight, I felt like a star. I may not seem like it, but the signs were all around me. The next song from the band was a slow dance. I smiled at Kathy and tried to lead her off the dance floor. However, she had other ideas. She wrapped her arms around my neck and pulled me close. I didn't expect this at all, and I wasn't sure where to put my hands. With the influence of the drinks I had, I felt every part of her close to me. She pulled me in tighter. Her head rested on my shoulder, and she pressed against me, starting to sway gently. It had been many years since another woman had danced with me like this. I put my arms around her waist, trying to stay composed. It felt nice having her so close. I could feel every small movement from her as my arms responded. Her hands gently stroked the back of my neck. I couldn't tell if she meant to be so close or if it just happened. I reminded myself it was just the drinks. We were simply having a dance. I felt really good, and since I had been drinking, I just went along with it. When the song finished, she tilted her head and gave me a light kiss on the cheek. "Thanks, Doug. That was nice," she said, smiling. I was sure my face was bright red. The kiss felt better than the dance. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had done something wrong to Mary. It was only one dance and a simple kiss, but I felt guilty anyway. "I need to sit down for a bit," I told Kathy. Older guys often use their age as a good reason to take a break. "Why don't you check if you can get our chairs back upstairs?" Kathy said while gently touching my arm. "I need to go to the bathroom and I will catch up." She walked away. The words, "our chairs," worried me a little. I knew it was silly to think she liked me in that way. The dance, the kiss, and our chairs felt like too much for me to handle. When I reached the top deck, I picked some chairs that were near other people. It didn't seem wise to be alone with Kathy anymore. I worried I might get the wrong idea and make things awkward for both of us. She was young, and younger people often feel more comfortable with touch. It felt better to be in a busier place. Suddenly, I felt a strong hand on my shoulder. It was Frank, and he had clearly been drinking. I laughed a little. "Mary is the one who asked me to take Kathy out," I said, trying to sound casual. "She's just a friend, Frank. After that dance I just watched, you'll be lucky if she's not expecting a baby," he joked, thinking it was funny. I started to worry that others might think the dance meant more than it really did. "That's just how kids dance these days, Frank," I said, trying to reassure myself. "It's nothing more than a dance." I didn't sound as sure as I wanted to. Frank gave my shoulder a pat. "That ain't just a dance, Doug," he said seriously before he wandered off, probably looking for another drink. I was happy to find a set of chairs in a busy area. I spotted Kathy coming up the stairs with 2 drinks. It seemed like the drinks were affecting her, too. I hurried over to grab the drinks before they spilled all over the deck. "They were closing the bars," she said as she came to join me at the new seats. "The captain said we will be docking soon." She sat down and pulled the small table closer to us. I placed the drinks down and took my seat. The table felt like a nice barrier between us, keeping a little space for both of us. I knew I was just imagining feelings of closeness. I felt much better as I took a sip of my drink. The bartender forgot to add ice, but I was too tipsy to mind. We talked and laughed while we docked. I could tell that Kathy had a bit to drink. This was okay because it meant I was still clear-minded even though I was quite tipsy. That last drink really pushed me over my limit. I knew my morning was going to be tough, so I decided to enjoy the night and forget about the hard times ahead. They announced that it was time to leave, but we didn't move. We were too busy having fun talking about Game of Thrones. It wasn't until they made the 3rd call to leave that we finally got up. A sober crew can really kill the mood. We helped each other down the stairs and across the gangway. I had a 2-block walk back to the hotel, and suddenly I worried about Kathy. I didn't want her walking down the streets alone at that time. "Where are you staying?" I think I might have said staying funny, but she didn't seem to notice. "The Biltmore." She started walking toward the hotel. "Me too. I'm on the 8th floor." I shouldn't have been surprised. It was the main hotel for the event. "I'm in 834, she said, and took my hand to keep her balance. Kathy lived just a few doors down from my room. "Well, it will be easy to be a gentleman and walk you to your door," I said with a small bow to show I was being polite. She laughed. We were tipsy. It took us almost 30 minutes to get to the 8th floor because we kept stopping to share little stories. Of course, they were silly things that only people who have been drinking would think were important. But overall, it was a fun journey. When we got to her room, I paused to make sure she still had her keycard. "I had a great time tonight, Kathy," I said as I got ready to say goodbye. She opened her door and looked at me. "So did I, Doug," she smiled brightly. She took my hand in hers. "You're really nice." As she stepped closer, I thought she might be leaning in for a kiss. I took a small step back, but she held onto my hand. "I need to get some sleep," I said, glancing back at my room. I smiled when I looked at her again. "It's going to be a hard morning." I thought a joke might lighten the mood. There had already been more than enough kissing for one night. She took my hand and pressed it to her chest. "Stay with me tonight." Her gaze was steady, locked onto mine. The words seemed clear, but I could tell she was a bit tipsy. I wanted my hand back, but it felt comfortable where it was. My first thought was to say yes, but then I imagined Mary clearing out her things and leaving the house. I was too buzzed to think clearly. I just couldn't understand why someone like her would even be interested in me. What had gone so wrong for the world? I knew I wasn't misreading her signals now. I quickly pulled my hand away and held up both my hands like I was giving up. "I can't do that, Mary." I felt my eyes fill with tears as I turned and hurried to my room. What had almost happened? I promised myself that I would never go to another expo without Mary. "Hey!" Kathy shouted. She didn't seem drunk, just really angry. My shoulder hit the doorframe hard. I was pretty tipsy, so controlling myself was tough. I searched for my keycard. "Doug, wait. I need to tell you something." I wasn't in the mood to listen. I managed to get my card into the slot and it turned green. I opened the door and quickly shut it behind me. I leaned against the door and took a few deep breaths. What just happened? I walked into the bathroom and splashed water on my face. When I looked in the mirror, I was shocked. I was just an average-looking guy. Sure, I could grow on someone over time, but there was no way Kathy should have connected with me so quickly. Something felt off. I was too tipsy to think clearly. I needed some rest and to think it over in the morning. Suddenly, I heard a soft knock at the door. I knew it was Kathy, and I didn't want to let her in. I was thinking about taking an early flight home. It might cost some money, but it would help me avoid running into Kathy tomorrow. There was another soft knock on the door. I called out, "We're just too drunk, Kathy. I shouldn't have let it go this far." I wanted to sound calm and give her a chance to back off. "We'll feel better in the morning." "I only had one drink tonight, Doug." She sounded clear-headed. I remembered watching her drink those Long Island iced teas, but I only saw one made for her. "We need to talk." Now I was really worried. The thought of her being crazy crossed my mind. Maybe she was up to no good. None of those ideas made me want to open the door. "Not tonight, Kathy." I was drunk, but still strong in my answer. I was sure I would take an early flight home and go straight to the airport to catch the first one in the morning. I'm slipping a card under the door. I saw an envelope start to come into view. It's from Mary. Have you ever felt such a chill run through you that it made you feel sick? This was one of those moments. I looked at the blue envelope, my name written in Mary's neat handwriting. I hesitated to touch it. What was going on? "I'm sorry, Doug. It was a foolish bet," I heard Kathy say, her voice heavy with regret. "Just read the card so you won't get mad at me." I opened the envelope and took out a birthday card. Inside, there was a note written in her hand. "My dear Doug, you are the best thing that ever happened to me. It hurts me so much that my body has changed with time. I know you miss us being close. I know I have avoided talking about it and left you feeling upset. It's not that I love you less, it's just my body that has let us down. The doctor told me that my feelings might come back, but I realize I have made you wait too long. As strange as it sounds, Kathy is my birthday gift to you. I hope you can enjoy your time with her and that it helps you feel better until I can be there for you again. I just can't leave you alone anymore. It hurts too much. With all my love, Mary in shock, I opened the door and stepped back into the room, knowing Kathy would come after me. I fell onto the bed, tears welling in my eyes. How did I let Mary think I was so desperate? Why did she believe she needed to do this for me? I would never leave her for a simple reason. I heard the faucet running in the bathroom, and Kathy came in with a glass of water, handing it to me. "You should drink some water." She sounded different. "I'm sorry for how much you drank, but you weren't responding." I only half understood her words. My head felt dizzy as I took a sip of the water, spilling some on my leg. What's happening? The room was spinning a bit. I wondered if my marriage was in trouble. I wished Mary was here. "Your wife asked me to help in a special way." Kathy sat down next to me. "She told me it would be hard to get you to agree, but she insisted that you really needed this." She rubbed my back gently, like a mother comforting a sick child. I took another sip of water, then spilled some. "I got a bit too confident and said I didn't need the card to win a man's heart. She said I did, and I bet her I could do it." Her voice softened more. "Until now, I've never had trouble getting a man's attention. I really thought I had you during the dance." She shook her head slowly. "I'm sorry for drinking too much. I was feeling desperate when you didn't go back to that private corner. I messed everything up. I was thinking about my marriage. I worried I had pushed Mary too hard. I need to get home." I tried to stand, but my legs felt weak. I realized the glass of water wasn't in my hand anymore, and I didn't know where it went. I fell back onto the bed, knowing I wasn't going anywhere right now. My eyes were shut tight, and I didn't want to open them again. "Shh, you're not going anywhere tonight." I felt myself being pulled further onto the bed. Kathy took off my shoes and placed a pillow under my head. "I need to call Mary," I mumbled, barely understanding my own words. Something felt wrong, and I wanted to tell her that none of this mattered. All I needed was her. I couldn't find my phone, and the hotel phone was way over on the nightstand. I felt myself fading away. "Hi, this is Kathy," she said to someone. I couldn't manage to open my eyes to see who it was. "Oh no, he's kind of passed out." There was a pause. "I don't think this is going like you thought. Sure, he is pretty drunk, but I think he's scared he's losing you." Another pause. "No, I tried, but he wasn't going to talk, even after he saw the card. Look, I'm not an expert, but I don't think this is good for him. He's a nice guy, and I don't feel good about what happened tonight." I struggled to open my eyes. She must be talking to Mary. Nothing was going right, so I found myself drifting further away. "Are you sure?" I missed part of what was being said. Kathy must be moving around the room. Her voice kept fading in and out. "Well, okay, I won't say no to that." Then everything went dark. A slight headache throbbed as the bright light hit my eyes. I tried to turn away from it, but something soft and heavy held my legs down. The light was so bright that I couldn't open my eyes right away, so I raised a hand to shield them. I felt a warm and pleasant sensation near my legs. I hadn't felt anything like that in a long time. I tried to lift my head, but it hurt, so I relaxed it again. My thoughts felt hazy as I realized something was happening. I lifted my head slowly, and the pain wasn't as bad this time. I cracked my eyes open slightly and saw nothing but bright sunlight as my eyes started to get used to it. Her beautiful brown eyes looked into mine as she smiled warmly. I felt a rush of excitement as my wife continued to speak. "That little button nose is just adorable. I really admire how cute she is." Kathy leaned in closer to me, and I could feel a tension building inside me, making me realize I was getting overwhelmed with feelings. Mary, I can't do this," I said, feeling a mix of pleasure and guilt. My voice sounded strained, but it was hard to control my emotions. "Kathy also has some skills that I don't have," Mary said, sounding playful. "It's something I know many men appreciate, but not all women can do." I glanced down and was surprised to see how deeply Kathy was engaged. It seemed like they had planned some of this while I was asleep. "Mary, oh my gosh, Mary, I love you," I said, unable to stop myself from feeling so lost in the moment. I had never experienced anything like this before, and the sight was almost too much to handle. It doesn't have to be like that. Physical connection is just physical. She laughed lightly. It seems like Kathy is quite skilled, too. I couldn't believe my wife just said something nice about the woman who had recently been very intimate with me. You realize how strange this is, right? I was still trying to understand everything that had happened. How can any marriage survive when a husband is unfaithful? How many wives choose the other women? Mary looked completely unfazed. Believe it or not, this is as much for me as it is for you. I took 4 months to find Kathy. You have to agree, she's beautiful. Kathy smiled and stood tall, showing off. Wow, she was very well groomed. I had never been this close to someone like her. I suddenly noticed I hadn't heard Kathy say anything since I woke up. Yes, she is lovely. I returned the smile to Kathy as she gave me a playful bow. Great! She is going to help you get ready, and then you will take her out for lunch. Now Mary was organizing our day. Lunch? What time is it? I looked at the clock and it was 11:30. Oh no, I was supposed to meet Frank for a 10 o'clock seminar. But now, that didn't seem to matter. I was just being my usual careful self. Frank is letting you take the day to rest. Mary chuckled on the phone. I told him off for letting you drink so much last night. I think he feels like he needs to help you. Sweetheart, I really appreciate you. I didn't feel ready for the expo today. I wondered how long Mary had been planning this. I love you too, dear. We can talk more later. I noticed the call ended, and I was once again alone with a young woman next to me. This is really strange, right? I looked at Kathy with a confused face. I've seen all sorts of strange things, Doug. She offered her hand to help me up from the bed. This is a kind of nice strange. I took her hand and she helped pull me up. Your wife cares about you so much that she hired one of the best people to help you, she said with a smile. Then she guided me to the bathroom. I probably looked and smelled pretty rough after last night. I was surprised my head didn't hurt. I guess a little kindness can work wonders. The water was really warm. It felt nice as Kathy washed my hair from behind. Her fingers were soothing on my scalp. It was very relaxing. So, tell me about Mary, Kathy said casually, like we were just having a friendly chat. What do you want to know? I felt a bit strange talking about Mary with another woman while in the shower. Well, you two used to be very close, didn't you? It seemed like this was going to be our topic for today. I was feeling a little vulnerable, and Kathy was there, very open about it. When we first got married, we spent a lot of time together, I replied, as Kathy gently rubbed behind my ears and the back of my neck. Everything felt so new to us. We would run around the house excitedly looking for another room to be together. Those were such fun times. I remembered those moments with a smile. Kathy gently pushed my head under the water to wash out the shampoo. What made her come back then? I had to think for a moment. At first, we just liked being together without clothes, and we were both eager. I recalled when I started to be a more caring partner. After a while, we enjoyed spending time together before getting closer. Kathy pulled my head out of the water and wiped the water from my eyes. That time together became the best part. I felt a warm feeling as I remembered Mary laughing happily in my arms. How did you make Mary feel special? Kathy's voice softened. Her hands gently touched my chest, and she leaned against my back. I remember the first time I was really excited, and Mary needed a bit more time to warm up. Kathy's hands moved to my stomach. I surprised her by sitting her in a chair and helping her relax. She laughed when they got stuck, and it made her look charming. I had always loved her laugh. I was so caught up in my thoughts that I didn't even think about what I should be doing. What happened next? Kathy asked softly, leaning closer to me. I felt a gentle breeze against my ear, which made me even more interested in the story. I knelt down between her legs, I said with a chuckle. I remember how nervous she looked when I moved her clothing. We had never gone this far before because she was worried I wouldn't enjoy it. Kathy moved her hand closer to me, and I couldn't help but feel the excitement build. I wasn't going to let her fear stop us that day. I wanted to explore new things with her. I smiled at the memory. When I tried to show her how much I cared, she seemed surprised, almost wanting to lean away. Kathy smiled as she listened, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. There's something beautiful about making your partner happy, she whispered softly to me. I asked my question with a smile so it wouldn't sound mean. Kathy turned me around and looked me in the eyes, also smiling. I can make a lot of guys forget about their wives, she said, gently touching the side of my head. But you, my friend, seem to only think about her? She picked up a bar of soap. I guess I'm not used to meeting men who really love their wives. She started to wash my chest and arms. I noticed her movement as she scrubbed me. She was a very pretty woman. Mary had good taste. Kathy seemed even more attractive because Mary chose her. This was all a little strange, and I felt bad for getting too relaxed in this situation. I took Kathy to a lunch spot downtown. I really didn't want to see anyone from work, especially Frank. We found a small seafood restaurant with a cozy atmosphere. We chose a table by the window so we could watch people outside. We enjoyed discussing the different outfits that walked by. Some of the people around us seemed to be just starting their day. Kathy was really good at chatting. She kept the talk going without taking a strong side on anything. I liked our conversation, and I wondered if she was enjoying it too, or if it felt more like work to her. I wanted to learn more about her, but I could tell she didn't want to dive into anything deeper. So I followed her lead and stuck to light topics. I just enjoyed spending time with such a lovely woman. "Mary told me you like superhero movies," Kathy said with a smile, and I could tell she had something in mind. "The new Spider-Man is playing just a few blocks away. There's a showing in about an hour." I laughed. Mary doesn't like it when I take her to those movies. I couldn't stop chuckling. "Looks like you might end up with a list of chores to do." Mary was trying to achieve 2 goals at once. "I won't mind it at all." "I've been collecting comic books for a long time," Kathy said, looking a bit shy. "I've spent too much money on the early issues of the Avengers." I was surprised. I never thought of her as a fan. "No way! You collect comics?" I tried to picture her sitting in a chair with a comic book, but I couldn't see it. "I kept all the comics I bought before I got married. I stopped when Mary came along." It felt nice to think about the 2 boxes in my basement, each comic carefully protected. "I have 2 full boxes at home. I think they hold a couple hundred each." "Wow, what did you read?" Kathy asked, looking genuinely happy. This was different from her professional excitement. It was personal joy. "I really liked X-Men, so I have a lot of those. I also collected Spider-Man during the Secret Wars," I said, amazed to be chatting with Kathy about comics. "I think I even tried out some of the Avengers." "Maybe I have a copy you need," I said. "I keep a list online." She took out a pen from her purse and wrote something on a napkin. "If you have any that I don't have, I would love to buy them from you." She handed me the napkin with a URL written on it. Her face was bright with joy. She wasn't just a collector. She was really into it. "Kathy, if I have any you need, I'll just give them to you." I didn't know what Mary was paying her, but I thought the books could be my way of saying thanks. I felt happy with how the day was going. I couldn't accept. She paused and then laughed a little. "Actually, I would love to have any you're willing to give away." Kathy smiled. "Let's go see Spider-Man." We walked to the theater holding hands. It felt like I was with a girlfriend, even if just for the day. She was practically skipping down the street. I was amazed at how much her mood had changed after we talked about comic books. She looked the same, but her excitement felt more real than before. We walked 4 blocks, chatting about our favorite Marvel and DC movies. We joked about how the directors sometimes changed the stories too much. I could feel a friendship starting to form. This could be a problem for Mary. I don't think she thought I would talk to Kathy after the event. We shared a big box of popcorn and watched the movie together. There's something about superhero movies. You know how they will end, but you still cheer for the hero and boo the bad guys. Maybe it's the happy ending that draws me in. It feels good when everything is right by the time the movie ends. After the movie, Kathy took my hand. "I want to show you my collection," she said, spinning around to pull me with her. "My apartment is just a few blocks away, down that way." She pointed to the east. "Sounds great," I replied, excited to learn more about Kathy. I was surprised she wanted to show me who she really was. I followed her with a smile, and she wrapped her other arm around mine, leaning close to me. It felt nicer than I thought it would, and I enjoyed having her so near. I liked the smell of her hair. Kathy lived in a small apartment on the 3rd floor of an old stone building. It looked like it might have been a bank long ago, but I couldn't be sure. When she opened her apartment door, I stepped into a whole new space. Kathy seemed to be around 30. Her place reminded me of a college dorm. Instead of framed photos, she had bright posters on the walls. The furniture was a mix of cozy chairs and couches. The carpet was a bit worn, but colorful rugs made it feel lively. For some reason, I felt right at home. "I don't usually have people over," she said as she moved some dirty dishes from the counter to the sink. I smiled at her. "I like it," I replied, nodding and looking around. I looked over at a row of bookcases. I couldn't believe my eyes. They were filled with board games, but not the usual ones you find in most places. It's hard to find someone who loves good games like I do. Mary plays some easier ones with me, but I'm part of a group that meets once a month to enjoy the more serious games. I walked over while Kathy was busy tidying up the open kitchen. The shelves were lined with great games: Puerto Rico, Stone Age, Carcassonne, Settlers, and Kalis, just to name a few. There were even some new games that I hadn't tried yet. Some were still wrapped in plastic. One thing I find tough about being a board gamer is finding people willing to learn new games. I have plenty of games that I haven't played myself. I lightly touched a few versions of Ticket to Ride and many boxes of Dominion. I thought about how Kathy was also a gamer. I wondered if Mary knew this about her. Maybe she thought a fun game with a cool girl would be part of the gift. Kathy moved closer to me, looking a little shy. "That's my other collection. I know it seems a bit childish." She gently placed her hand on one of the boxes. "Most people don't see how much better they are than Monopoly. How can you have Agricola sealed up but have Caverna sitting right next to it?" They were both from the same designer, but Agricola was much older. Her smile lit up the whole room. "Free shipping," Kathy said, lightly punching my arm. "Agricola cost me over $100, but with the deal I paid only about $10. She playfully rubbed where she tapped. "Doug, you're a gamer. Once a month, every month." I smiled back. "It looks like you have a lot of my games right here." "Do you think Mary knew about this?" Her expression turned serious again. "This has to be more than just a coincidence." I was thinking the same thing. I looked at Kathy differently now. If I wasn't so in love with Mary, Kathy could be my dream girl. She didn't look like a nerd, but she certainly moved like one. What was Mary thinking? "How about a quick game of Nordic countries if you're up for it?" She grabbed the game from the shelf. "I'll beat you!" She seemed excited and ready to play. It felt like she was having fun and getting paid to do something she loved. If there was any money in playing board games, I would have quit my job long ago. We set up the game with Kathy as purple and me as black. For the next 15 minutes, we battled over pieces of railroad track. As the game came to an end, I realized I had all the right cards to finish my tickets and end the game. I could tell Kathy needed more time. She had just drawn new tickets, and the look on her face made me think they were tough ones. I decided to give her a few more chances to play. I played my red cards to claim a neutral part of the track. This left me with no red cards for the section I needed. I spent 7 turns trying to collect the reds I needed to finish the last part. I couldn't finish before Kathy called the end of the game. We counted our tickets, and I lost big because I missed that red route. Kathy's smile was so bright, it made it hard to feel bad about losing. She didn't brag while we picked up the pieces, which made my loss easier to handle. Kathy put the game box back on the shelf in its place. She came back to me and took my hand. I stood up from my chair, and she led me toward the bedroom. I thought I would see her comic book collection. Instead, she guided me to the end of her bed and gently pushed me down onto it. I couldn't believe how nice it felt. I could really like a girl like Kathy. That thought hit me hard. Mary was not in that thought. What was I doing? I moved Kathy off me a little too quickly and sat up. "I enjoyed that too much," I told her while looking at the wall. I didn't know if I should leave. I felt confused. I heard a small sniffle and looked over at her teary eyes. "I'm sorry." Kathy was trying not to cry. "I didn't mean for that to happen." I understood what she meant and realized she felt it too. What was Mary thinking when she suggested this? I laid back down and pulled Kathy close to me. I couldn't just walk away after that. What was Mary thinking? I asked out loud. "You need to call her, Doug." I felt her tears on my chest. "You can't stay here. It will mess everything up." I ran my fingers through her hair, not wanting to let go, but knowing I should. I sat up again, bringing her with me. I gently wiped her tears with my thumb and kissed her on the forehead. "I'm sorry, but I have to go." I stood up slowly and started to get dressed. Kathy stayed on the bed, staring at the floor. "Are you going to be okay?" I asked softly. She looked up at me. "I'm just going to lie here and listen to some music," she said with a sigh. "I'll be all right." I knew that if I didn't leave, she wouldn't really be okay. I finished getting dressed and walked towards the door. "Goodbye, Kathy." I said it without looking back. There was no answer, so I closed her bedroom door gently and walked to the front door. Just before I reached the door handle, I heard the familiar tune of Sugar Magnolia coming from behind the bedroom door. Something felt very wrong. Realization hit me, and my eyes filled with tears. I rushed back to the bedroom and pushed the door open. "Grateful Dead is your favorite band," I said, tears streaming down my face. I already knew her answer because they were my favorite too. Kathy looked surprised to see me back and just nodded. I sat down on the bed again. Something is really wrong. Mary wants us to be together. I felt the tears start to fall. I knew there was only one reason for her to say that. I should have noticed the signs, but I didn't. Kathy moved closer and gave me a hug from behind. "Why would she want that?" Kathy was starting to cry again. "I know she cares about you, and you care about her." I began to sob. I didn't want to say what was in my heart. "Oh, no. That can't be true, Doug." She guessed what I was dreading. I tried to pull myself together, and Kathy wiped my tears away. "You need to call her right now." Kathy tried to take my phone out of my pocket. I reached inside and pulled it out. She turned off the music, stood up, and left the room, closing the door gently behind her. "Hi, Mary." I wasn't sure how to start the conversation. "Hi, Doug. Did you and Kathy enjoy your day?" She sounded happy. I shouldn't be doing this over the phone, but waiting would feel even worse. "I know what you're doing, Mary." There was a long pause. I didn't want to say anything else. I was scared I would start crying. "We aren't back to that again. It's just a fling, silly." Mary didn't sound as sure as she did this morning. "Just try to tell me you're not enjoying it. When were you going to tell me?" I really didn't want to talk about Kathy anymore. I also didn't want to be unkind. Mary had to know that I was aware. I heard the crying start, and my eyes filled up with tears again. "After you fell for her, I couldn't stand to think I would leave you alone." Mary was trying not to break down, but she was struggling. I was sure she could hear me sobbing. "I'm so sorry I didn't notice. There has to be something we can do." I was in tears again. "I should be at home with her." "No, just come home and bring Kathy with you." Mary could barely say the words. I knew there was no way I was bringing Kathy home with me. "I'm coming home by myself." "I love you and I will always love you," I said firmly. "It will be just us and no one else." I could hear her crying again. "All right, let me talk to Kathy," Mary said. I really didn't want that, so I paused, trying to think of a good reason to stop it. "I'll just call her anyway, Doug." Mary was determined. I didn't like the idea of sharing this moment with anyone else. I opened the bedroom door. Kathy was sitting on the couch in a robe. Her eyes were red and puffy. "She wants to talk to you," I said, offering her the phone. I should have just hung up and gone home. Kathy slowly took the phone. "Hello?" she said in a quiet voice. Her head was down and she was looking at the floor. I knew she was in a tough spot. She looked up at me, her eyes watery. "Yes." There was a long pause as Kathy wiped her eyes. "I promise." I wasn't sure what she was promising, and I didn't want to ask. "Okay." Kathy hung up the call and stood up to give me back the phone. As I took it, she leaned in and gave me a quick kiss on the cheek. "You need to go home, Doug," she said, guiding me to the door. I could tell she was deep in thought, but I didn't have time to help her. I needed to get home to Mary. I walked away, not thinking I would see her again. November 12th had always been a hard day for me. Mary passed away 7 years ago on this very day, making my drive home from work feel even longer. I really wished I could just skip this date. Everyone at work remembered and kept their distance, which made the day drag on. Losing someone close, like Mary, leaves a part of you feeling empty. There's not much you can do about it. You grieve, and time helps a little, but you always know something important is gone. I parked in the driveway and waited for the garage door to open. Our love was sincere and simple. A bond like that can never be forgotten. I turned off the car and walked toward the kitchen door. I took a deep breath to clear my head and opened the door. "Daddy!" A cute little girl with dark hair ran into my arms. It was impossible to feel upset when I was greeted like that. No matter how my day had gone, everything felt better. "How's my Mary doing?" I asked as I hugged her tight and lifted her onto my hip. She felt so right there. I kissed her forehead and held her close. "Mommy said we could play Candyland when you got home." Mary beamed with excitement. I could see she was really looking forward to the game. I set it all up myself. She wiggled free and dashed to the dining room, where I knew the game was waiting. Let your daddy catch his breath, sweetheart. Kathy stepped out of the hallway, smiling. She looked as beautiful as ever. Being a mom suited her perfectly. Did you have a long day? She kissed me and gently stroked my cheek. She could sense it was one of those days. She had promised Mary she would be at the funeral. When Mary asked if she could care for me, Kathy said, yes. Mary made sure I wouldn't be by myself. I smiled. It feels good to be home. Mommy? Daddy, it's ready. Mary was still the most important person in my life. Hey, audience! If you liked this video and want to keep up with more thrilling stories, make sure to subscribe to Prince Cheating Tales and hit the notification bell. You don't want to miss out on our upcoming adventures. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next wonderful story.